Chapter 1483. Haha, it's rare to see such a fearless kid. I'm afraid you won't even have the strength to resist when the true essence of a late soul formation cultivator is suppressing you. Don't tell me you're wearing a 1,000-year turtle shell? A graceful and voluptuous, beautiful woman floated in from outside the door. She wore a water-green chiffon dress, and her long hair was coiled into a bun. She had phoenix eyes, red lips, a sharp chin, and a high-nose bridge. Every frown and smile of hers revealed a mature charm. Behind the beautiful woman was a young man and a young woman. The young woman wore a purplish-red traditional dress with her hair tied up in a high bun. Her face was very similar to that of the beautiful woman. She had curved eyebrows and a small oval face. Her smile carried a bit of arrogance. The other was a handsome young man with a jade-like face and fair skin. He was very fashionably dressed in the clothes of the secular world. He wore a casual black suit and shiny leather boots. As soon as he entered the hall, he looked at Zhao Ting, who was kneeling on the ground with an ambiguous gaze. These two women and one man, two with classical charm and one with modern fashion, were common scenes in the fantasy realm. Sorrowless smiled and said, "Sister-in-law and Man Yin are back? Haha, how's the discussion with the in-laws? Is Brother Xiaogong coming?" Yang Qing knew who they were as soon as he heard the name. This woman was called Su Yanan, the mother of Xiao Qiqing in name and Sorrowless' real wife. The woman was called Xiao Manyan, the daughter of Sorrowless and Su Yanan and the elder sister of Xiao Qiqing. Although Xiao Qiqing didn't specifically mention it, Yang Cheng could feel from the woman's words that this pair of mother and daughter were very vicious to Xiao Qiqing. They didn't give him a good face since he was young and often abused him. Therefore, when Yang Cheng saw that they didn't seem to be affected on the surface, he wanted to kill these two women on the spot. "Don't worry, big uncle. Sister-in-law just came back with the two kids. My brother said that he'll be here in a month at the latest and half a month at the soonest." Su Yanan giggled. "Good. Brother Xiaogong is truly worthy of the title Sword Maniac. This time, it's all thanks to sister-in-law. With Brother Xiaogong's guidance, the martial competition of the three families will definitely be able to vent the resentment from 100 years ago," Sorcerer Ma Huey said with satisfaction. Yang Cheng asked the Zhao siblings curiously, "Who is this Brother Xiaogong they're talking about? It seems to be very powerful." Zhao Muyang was about to explain when the handsome young man in the suit interrupted him and sneered in disdain. "Where did this stupid boy come from? You haven't even heard of the Su family's Su Xiaogong? How did you survive in the illusion?" Yang Cheng cursed in his heart. "I didn't ask you anything," but he still smiled apologetically and nodded to express his shame. "Big young master, please forgive me. My brother Xiao has just entered the illusion and doesn't know Senior Su Xiaogong's name." Zhao Muyang turned his head and introduced to Yang Cheng, "Brother Xiao, this is the Xiao family's young master Xiao Qiufen. Senior Su Xiaogong is an expert of the Su family. Because he's obsessed with swordsmanship and has the title Sword Maniac. He's also a famous sword genius in the illusion and is currently recognized as one of the top 10 experts." Yang Cheng suddenly understood. It seemed that the Su family was also a vassal family of the Xiao family, but because they had a genius like Su Xiaogong, the Su family status was extraordinary. Su Yanan, as Su Xiaogong's sister, married into the Xiao family, so her status was also not ordinary. No wonder she was so arrogant. Although the top 10 masters in the illusion realm weren't the strongest, they were still the best of the best in the past 100 years. They were recognized by the people in the illusion realm. As for some elders of the ancient families, or some old monsters who lived in seclusion among the rogue cultivators, because it was unknown whether they were still alive or not, they naturally wouldn't be included in the list. To be able to enter the top 10 experts, one had to at least be at the weak water stage or above. Among them, some had unfathomable cultivation. Because no one had defeated them, no one knew to what extent their limits were. If it wasn't for the important matter of saving Xiao Qiqing, Yang Cheng really wanted to fight with these great experts. Winning or losing was secondary. He hoped to understand more profound heavenly Tao from the battle. Only by fighting with experts would it be possible. Just now, I heard you say that you're at the early stage of soul formation, but can fight against the late stage of soul formation. Are you sure you're not talking big? Su Yanin asked with interest. Yang Cheng nodded. Second, madam, if you don't believe me, you can find a late-stage soul formation cultivator to fight with me. Although I may not win, it's very difficult for me to lose. If your bragging is broken, our Xiao family doesn't want you. Xiao Manyan sneered. Yang Chen smiled calmly and calmly. Sorrowful Moe thought for a moment and said, if that's the case, Xiao Feng, go call Lan Fei over and fight with this Xiao Chun. Xiao Qiufeng obediently accepted the order and flew outside to find that cultivator called Lan Fei. Eldest uncle, you're really heartless. Lan Fei is the youngest and most talented late-stage soul formation cultivator in the soul formation stage. If you let him fight with this bragging brat, he's going to suffer. Although Su Yanin said that, her eyes were full of excitement. Sorrowful Mahue looked at Yang Cheng playfully. Xiao Chun, if you can fight with Lan Fei for 10 moves and not fall, I'll give the Zhao family 3 mid-grade soul convergence pills. If you can withstand 30 moves and not fall, I'll give the Zhao family a high-grade Heaven Cloud pill. Do you dare to accept? Sorrowful Mahue also had his own considerations. If Yang Cheng could withstand 30 moves from Lan Fei, even 10 moves, it meant that this brat wasn't lying. He must be extraordinary. Then exchanging the pills for a young man with potential to serve the family was worth it. Xiao Chun is not talented, but I'm willing to fight for the Zhao siblings. Yang Cheng cupped his hands and said. Zhao Muyang and Zhao Ting's eyes were filled with gratitude, especially Zhao Ting, whose eyes were even glistening with tears. After all, they didn't actually help Yang Cheng much, but Yang Cheng challenged a late-stage soul formation cultivator for them. In the eyes of the brother and sister, Yang Cheng was a person who valued friendship and righteousness. He was really a good person. If it wasn't for the fact that they really needed the pills, they wouldn't have let Yang Cheng take the risk. In the early stage against the late stage, it wasn't just the density of true essence, but also the difference in experience and realms. Not to mention 10 moves, it was very difficult to withstand one move. Soon, Xiao Qiufeng brought a dark-skinned, strong-looking young man in a blue mandarin jacket and white shorts to the training field outside the main hall. This young man, called Lan Fei, was indeed at the peak of the late stage of soul formation. It seemed like he could break through to the tribulation passing stage at any time. Lan Fei, other than not using magic treasures, don't hold back your strength. Use all your true essence to fight this Xiao Chun. 30 moves at most. Sorrowful Mahue ordered. Lan Fei looked at Yang Cheng in confusion. It seemed like using all his strength to fight an early-stage soul formation cultivator wasn't very appropriate. But since he was a cultivator under the Xiao family, he needed the Xiao family's power to help him cultivate. So he had to listen to the Xiao family's words. I have orders. I won't be lenient. If you can't hold on, don't try to be brave. Otherwise, it's not worth it to destroy your cultivation when you've just entered the soul formation stage. Lan Fei said with an old-fashioned expression. Yang Qing couldn't help but feel happy. This sturdy guy looked cold, but he was actually warm-hearted. He nodded and said, please make your move. Lan Fei didn't hesitate anymore. All the true essence in his body surged. He used all his true essence and attacked Yang Cheng fiercely. Because he didn't use magic treasures, Lan Fei purely used his fists and legs. This wasn't rare in a cultivator's fight. After all, not everyone had a magic treasure. Other than spells, there were only fists and legs. What was different from normal ancient martial arts was that cultivators used true essence instead of true qi. Yang Cheng had read a lot of ancient martial arts manuals and introductions to all kinds of martial arts in the Tang sect. He could tell that Lan Fei was a disciple of the Shaolin sect, and his style was the Shaolin Luohan fist. Lan Fei's fists were like steel pencils wrapped in explosives. A hook, a point, and a press was powerful and heavy. If the martial arts arena wasn't made of special materials, it would have been smashed into pieces. Yang Cheng didn't have any systematic martial arts training. He only knew how to fight with Lan Fei using his fighting instincts. He couldn't expose his cultivation, and his true essence obviously couldn't withstand Lan Fei's attacks. He was constantly being beaten back. With a series of sweeping kicks in the air, Lan Fei kicked away Yang Cheng's fists. His leg was as fast as lightning, and it hit Yang Cheng's chest right in the middle. Bang! Yang Cheng's entire body flew backward. His true essence formed a shockwave, and it was another heavy blow in the air. He's only been hit by the fourth move, and he's already sent flying. Looks like he's a reckless idiot. Xiao Manyan, who was watching the fight, had just finished speaking when she exclaimed in surprise. She looked at Yang Cheng in shock. How could? Chapter 1484. Yang Cheng drew a parabola in the air and landed on the ground with a somersault. He patted the dust off his chest and didn't seem to be injured. Sorrowless and Su Yanin were surprised. Sorrowless was at the middle stage of Soul Water Realm, and Su Yanin was at the Samadhi True Fire Realm, so she could see a lot. Yang Cheng ate at least 70% of the genuine essence of the late stage of Soul Transformation Realm. It would be fine if he didn't vomit blood, but he still landed safely. Could it be that his physique was forged from dark steel? Looks like he has some skills, Sorrowless murmured. Lan Fei also noticed that something was wrong, but he was too competitive. He felt that it was too shameful that he couldn't even beat an early-stage soul transformation realm. So he kept attacking. Yang Cheng still couldn't gain the upper hand. He was suppressed and took a few punches. The Arhot fists hit his waist, abdomen, and chest a few times. However, no matter how hard Yang Cheng tried to retreat, he was only slightly embarrassed. At most, he rolled a few times, but he wasn't beaten to the point of vomiting blood, nor did his bones break. In the end, Lan Fei didn't hold back anymore. He used the Arhot fist for a long time and realized that he only had 7 moves left. Yang Cheng's clothes were torn, but he wasn't injured at all. He was still standing there with a smile, waiting for the next move. Your physique is really good. You have to be careful. I won't use my genuine essence this time, Lan Fei said seriously. After saying that, a golden Buddhist rune lingered in front of Lan Fei, forming a heavenly treasure Dharma wheel. Sanskrit flowed like water. Ma, and I, ba, me, ho. The Buddhist mantra, the merciful Bodhisattva mantra, wasn't performing a ritual. Instead, he was using a spell derived from the Buddhist internal strength. Numerous gilded Buddhist runes rippled in the air. Although he was only at the late stage of the soul formation realm, he seemed to have the power of a tribulation realm cultivator. I didn't expect Lan Fei to have such a skill. It must be a skill similar to Shaolin's lion roar. Sorrowful Mahue squinted. That should be the case. This cultivation technique seems to be quite powerful. The true essence is like ripples in all directions. If Lan Fei can enter the tribulation stage, its power should increase greatly. Looks like Xiao Chan won't be able to withstand it, Su Yanin analyzed. Yang Cheng did not care about what the people around him thought. This was just a show. If he wanted to kill Lan Fei, he could do it with a snap of his fingers. He was just pretending to be defenseless and taking the beating. Lan Fei was very serious. After condensing the 6 syllables, he opened his mouth and roared. Roar! Sure enough, it was as if a lion's roar shook the sky. The 6-syllable mantra expanded with the wind and overlapped in front of Yang Cheng, causing the people around him to use their true yuan to resist. Yang Cheng pretended to be struggling, but the true essence barrier on his body was shattered. He was also hit repeatedly in the air, making him cry out in pain. After the lion roar, Yang Cheng landed on the ground and purposely let a little blood seep out of the corner of his mouth. He stood up shakily and wiped the corner of his mouth. This act had to be done properly. Lan Fei had put in so much effort. It would be too fake if he couldn't even make an early soul transformation realm bleed. But even so, the fact that Yang Cheng could still stand made everyone dumbfounded. They were once again amazed by Yang Cheng's physique. How could this be? Lan Fei's calm face was also shocked. He revealed a bit of seriousness, but most of it was dispiritedness and unwillingness. Sorrowful Mahue and the others were surprised and pleasantly surprised. They felt that they had picked up a treasure and decided to nurture Yang Cheng well. The Zhao siblings were also ecstatic. It seemed that Yang Cheng could really withstand 30 moves, and they would be able to obtain the Shaoyan pill. Sir, I don't want to fight anymore. I've already tried my best. Even if I use 3 more moves, I won't be able to defeat Xiao Chun. Lan Fei turned around and cupped his hands at sorrowful Ma Hui apologetically. Yang Chen had a higher opinion of this Lan Fei. This person has a straightforward nature, and he has a kind heart. Earlier, he reminded Yang Chen to be careful, and now he's not going overboard. He won't lose his rationality for the sake of his reputation. Sorrowful Ma Hui also knew this, so he smiled and said, Lan Fei, you're the #1 young soul transformation realm cultivator in our Xiao family. You are even more outstanding than I thought. You did well. I will send someone to give you another spiritual pivot pill. Lan Fei was very excited when he heard this. A mid-grade pill was extremely precious to those wandering cultivators. Only a family like the Xiao family could give it to a soul transformation realm cultivator like him. Thank you, sir. Lan Fei will not disappoint you, and enter the tribulation passing realm as soon as possible. Sorrowful Ma Hui nodded in satisfaction and said to Yang Cheng, Xiao Chun, your body refining technique is indeed impressive. Our Xiao family has always treated talented young cultivators well. From today onwards, you are a member of our Xiao family. I will ask housekeeper Xiao to arrange a place for you to cultivate and give you 3 Bodhi pills to increase your true yuan. Thank you, sir. May I ask about Brother Zhao's matter? Yang Cheng asked on behalf of Zhao Muyang. Sorrowful Ma Hui frowned slightly and said, the Shaoyan pill might have to wait for a while because high-grade pills are always in short supply. I'm afraid it will take more than a month for the latest batch of Shaoyan pills to be refined. The Zhao siblings looked perturbed. Why did they feel that this matter was becoming more and more dangerous? Do you think my dad would lie to you? Xiao Qiufeng said coldly. Although the Shaoyan pill is precious, our Xiao family will not go back on our word for a high-grade pill. Sorrowful Moy nodded to his son. Not bad. Qiufeng is right. I, Sorrowful Ma Hui, always keep my word. Sir, you misunderstood. We can wait. Zhao Muyang immediately said respectfully. Xiao Qiufeng's eyes flashed with a strange light. He glanced at Zhao Ting and smiled. How about this? Zhao Muyang, Zhao Ting, you two stay with our Xiao family for a month. After a month, you can go back with a Shaoyan pill. This is too troublesome. Zhao Muyang, you and your sister both use swords. It won't be long before Senior Su Xiaogong comes to our Xiao family to teach the younger generation sword techniques. Don't you and your sister want to learn more? Xiao Qiufeng asked. Zhao Muyang and Zhao Ting's eyes lit up. If they could get even a little bit of Su Xiaogong's guidance, they would be too lucky. With their status, how could they have the chance to come into contact with the top 10 experts? On the other hand, sorrowful Ma Hui, Su Yanan, and the others looked at Xiao Qiufeng strangely, but they didn't stop him. This was just a small matter. After everything was settled, the head butler Xiao Yuan came over and brought Yang Cheng and the Zhao siblings to find 2 places to cultivate and live. The Xiao family occupied a large area. They found 2 secluded forests with simple wooden houses inside, which were convenient to live in. Xiao Yuan didn't forget to give Yang Cheng 3 Bodhi pills, but Yang Cheng didn't need such inferior goods. The quality of the pills was far inferior to the ones he had refined himself. Thinking about what Xiao Qiufeng had said, that refining a batch of Heaven Cloud pills would take around a month, Yang Cheng felt puzzled. He could clearly finish it in 1 or 2 hours, so why do they need a month? After thinking about it, he suddenly realized that he could use the Samadhi True Fire, but they used all sorts of materials to start the fire. Not to mention the quality of the fire. Just the firepower alone couldn't compare to his, so of course it would take a long time to refine. Yang Cheng gave a Samadhi Bodhi pill to the Zhao siblings. Originally, the siblings didn't want to accept it, but Yang Cheng said that if they didn't accept it, they wouldn't treat him as a friend, so the siblings could only gratefully accept it. Zhao Ting even started to look at Yang Cheng with admiration in her eyes, which made Yang Cheng a little dumbfounded. The female cultivators in the illusion realm were too bitter. They were moved by a little benefit, but his women all ate low-grade pills like they were 3 meals a day. In fact, Yang Chen also had a favor to ask from the Zhao siblings. He mainly wanted to know more about the illusory realm, as well as the situation of the hidden clans. With sufficient benefits, the siblings naturally told him everything they knew without holding anything back, and told him everything they knew. However, Yang Cheng regretted that he couldn't get any information about Xiao Qiqing from the Zhao siblings after spending 2 days with them. He only knew a lot of general knowledge about the illusion realm. Yang Cheng thought about it. It was time to walk around the Xiao family, but how could he walk around and not be suspected of what he was looking for? Although he hadn't found any super experts in the Xiao family that could restrain him, it was precisely because he couldn't find them that he was particularly suspicious. Just as Yang Cheng was worrying about this problem, the man who fought with him 2 days ago, Lan Fei, suddenly came to his residence early in the morning to look for him. Chapter 1485. Brother Xiao Chun, are you used to it? Lan Fei's smile was very cheerful. This had something to do with his young age. Yang Cheng could tell that this burly man really did not take what happened that day to heart. He smiled with some appreciation. Brother Lan Fei, why are you looking for me? It's like this. The Xiao family allows every cultivator who joins the Xiao family to enter the Azure Emperor Pagoda once a year to choose a cultivation technique or spell they want to cultivate. This is my 3rd year in the Xiao family, and I'm going to choose a cultivation technique. I thought that brother Xiao Chen probably hasn't gone yet, so I came to find you, Lan Fei explained. Yang Cheng's mind raced when he heard this. He had long been interested in the Azure Emperor Pagoda because he heard from Zhao Muyang that there were many prisoners in the pagoda. They were servants who had gone against the Xiao family or had been punished. Could Xiao Qiqing be imprisoned there? Thank you, Brother Lan Fei. Of course, Yang Cheng did not refuse. He accompanied Lan Fei to the Azure Emperor Pagoda. Along the way, Lan Fei asked casually, Brother Zhao's cultivation technique is really amazing. May I know which sect you're from? Yang Cheng laughed in his heart. So it was because he was curious about this that he found an excuse to ask him. Brother Lan Fei seems to be very interested. Lan Fei's tanned face turned red, and he was a little embarrassed. He laughed dryly and said, Brother Xiao Chun, you may not know this, but I'm a martial arts fanatic. When my master took me in, he said that my 6 senses were not pure and my obsession was too deep. I couldn't enter Buddhism and could only be a layman disciple. As long as I'm interested in a cultivation technique, I want to understand a little more. This guy was quite frank. Yang Cheng nodded approvingly. Since Brother Lan Fei is so frank, then I'll tell you the truth. Actually, it's because I'm talented. I don't have any cultivation technique, and I don't know how I got such a body. Yang Cheng lied. He couldn't possibly say that he was bathed in divine light or tempered by Tai Ching heavenly lightning. Lan Fei opened his mouth in astonishment. He had a look of I see, but he simply believed it. The two of them slowed down and chatted happily. Lan Fei's only interest was cultivation, studying martial arts and Dharma access. Coincidentally, Yang Cheng's comprehension was much more profound than Lan Fei's. Lan Fei found it very interesting to chat with Yang Cheng, as he could always think of new perspectives. I have benefited a lot from discussing cultivation with Brother Xiao. Lan Fei admires Brother Zhao's open and honest way of speaking. How about we become friends in the future? Lan Fei asked seriously as he looked at Yang Cheng with anticipation. Yang Cheng smiled bitterly in his heart. Even his name was fake. Although this guy was in his 40s, he was too naive. But thinking that it was no big deal to make friends, he agreed. Lan Fei was overjoyed. That's great. Brother Xiao Chun is my first friend in the illusory realm. In the future, I will no longer be lonely on the path of cultivation. Yang Cheng felt a little awkward as he listened. He asked suspiciously, Brother Lan Fei, I like women. Lan Fei was startled. When he came back to his senses, he laughed and said, Brother, don't think too much. I don't like men either. I'm just saying that I'm not lonely. Haha. Fortunately, I've just entered the illusory realm from the secular world. Otherwise, I might not have understood what you meant. Yang Cheng asked curiously, why? Brother Lan Fei didn't come from the illusory realm? If I came from the illusory realm, why would I leave my own clan and join the Shao clan? I'm the same as Brother Shao. I came here from the yellow steppes of Hongming. In fact, most of the cultivators under the three big hidden clans defected from Hongming. Everyone is already used to it, Lan Fei said. Doesn't Hongming take any measures? Aren't they going to strengthen the restrictions? Yang Chen was puzzled. Lan Fei said disdainfully, in Hongming, there are actually not many cultivators who come from the outside. Hongming is also formed by many clans. For example, in Hongming's Xiantian Island, there's a Heaven Stage elder, Yan Wuchun. He's one of the top 10 experts. The Yin clan that he leads has a lot of power in Hongming. The other experts also form their own cliques and get rid of dissidents. The current Hongming is no longer the Hongming that the secular world thinks it is. We only slowly realized it after entering the illusory realm. So, it's reasonable for everyone to leave. The cultivation resources in Hongming are all divided by those powerful groups. We, the new cultivators, don't have any resources at all. How can we improve? As long as someone has a little bit of brain and is not too stupid and loyal, he or she will leave Hongming. Brother Shao, you don't have to blame yourself for leaving Hongming. Hongming only has itself to blame today. They're just pretending to be Hua, Xia's guardians. But in the illusory realm, it's just the largest force with all kinds of people mixed together. It's not much different from the group formed by the three hidden clans. Yang Cheng thought of the absolute sword Taoist. He only gave him some elixirs as a bribe, and he gave up the mission of being the messenger of Hongming. He couldn't help but secretly agree. It was indeed an empty shell. The two passed by many cultivation places along the way. Yang Cheng found that the Shao clan's foundation was really deep. Not to mention the soul formation cultivators, there were at least 50 cultivators at the crossing calamity stage. Among them, there were many cultivators at the Darkwater stage. This was just a small area. If the entire Shao clan was expanded, they could probably gather hundreds of cultivators at the crossing calamity stage, thousands of cultivators at the soul formation stage, and those in the innate realm were even more numerous. And the Shao clan was the weakest among the three hidden clans. One could imagine how powerful the Luo and Ning family were. Yang Cheng could kill less than 10 cultivators at the Darkwater stage. But if hundreds of cultivators at the crossing calamity stage attacked him at the same time, he could only run away. Because ants could kill an elephant with their true inner force. He would be crushed to death no matter what. Unless he advanced to the Shang-Qing Heavenly Thunder Tribulation and at least mastered the Tai-Ching Heavenly Thunder, then he would be able to use the 9 Heavenly Thunder to absolutely destroy groups of cultivators at the crossing calamity stage. When they arrived at the Qing Emperor's pagoda that seemed to pierce through the clouds, Lan Fei brought Yang Cheng to a dark red iron gate. At the gate of the Qing Emperor's pagoda, an old woman with gray hair and a face full of wrinkles was sitting cross-legged on a platform made of Chinese parasol wood. She seemed to have been sitting there for a long time without moving. Her clothes were full of dust. Because he had already informed the clan master, Shao Meng, you received permission. Lan Fei cupped his hands and said, Lan Fei, Shao Chun, please open the gate. Yang Cheng did not pay much attention at first, but after glancing at the old woman, he suddenly realized that something was wrong. He could not see through this old woman's cultivation. For him to not be able to see through her cultivation, she had to be at least at the weak water stage. Only then would it be possible that her true inner force was too condensed, and he could not see through her. Could it be that such an inconspicuous old woman who guarded the gate was an expert at the weak water stage or above? Yang Cheng did not dare to show too much shock. He was secretly shocked. After thinking about it carefully, he could make some guesses. The Qing Emperor's pagoda seemed to be the most important place in the Shao family. It was understandable that there was a super expert guarding it. However, he had never heard Xiao Qiqing mention any other weak water stage experts in the Shao family other than the clan master, Shao Mengyu. The old woman did not even open her eyes. A trace of true inner force was transferred from her body to the huge iron gate. The gate slowly let out a rumbling sound and opened up a gap. Thank you, Grandma. Lan Fei waved at Yang Cheng excitedly and took the lead to walk in. Once they entered the Qing Emperor's pagoda, there was a long passageway in front of them. It was surrounded by huge, greenish-gray stones. There were various stone rooms on both sides of the passageway, and at the far end was a vertical passage that led upstairs. Yang Cheng waited for the door behind him to close before asking, "Brother Lan Fei, what kind of person is that grandma outside?" Lan Fei did not seem to understand why Yang Cheng was asking this. He scratched his head and replied, "I'm not too sure either. I only know that Grandma's name is Xiao Tingsu. She is the elder in charge of guarding the Qing Emperor's pagoda in the Xiao family. Everyone calls her Grandma. She almost never speaks. Not only me, but many of the elders who have been here for decades also know very little about Grandma. It is said that Grandma's cultivation is ridiculously high, but no one has seen her fight before, so it is only a guess." Yang Cheng thought to himself, "It seems that this Xiao Tingsu is undoubtedly above the weak water stage. Otherwise, no one would know her exact cultivation until now." He didn't know if all the hidden clans had such experts in hiding. Xiao Tingsu was known to be guarding the Azure Emperor's pagoda. If other experts existed, where would they be? What realm could they reach? Chapter 1486. As Lan Fei walked, he told Yang Cheng about the Azure of the Archpagoda. Brother Xiao might not know this, but the Xiao family is said to have inherited the mantle of the Azure of the Arch from the ancient times. Therefore, they are most proficient in wood elemental cultivation techniques. The Azure Wood Heart Sutra that only the main family can cultivate is a secret technique that is not passed down. It is a powerful cultivation technique that is both offensive and defensive. This Azure of the Arch pagoda commemorates the ancient ancestor, the Azure of the Arch. There are 108 levels in the pagoda, and most of them are ancient books. However, top-notch cultivation techniques like the Azure Wood Heart Sutra are passed down from generation to generation in the Xiao family. They're not placed here. Further up from the library level are the places where pills are refined and pill refining materials are stored. Normally, these are occupied by the experts of the Xiao clan who are good at refining pills. The top few levels are the prison cells where some prisoners are locked up. Yang Cheng purposely asked, "Brother Lan Fei, do you know what kind of people are locked up in these cells?" Lan Fei shook his head and said, "I'm not too sure about that. I've never been there before. I only know that those who go against the Xiao family are either traitors or servants who have made mistakes. If their cultivation levels are higher, they're usually executed immediately to prevent future trouble. However, those with lower cultivation levels, or those whose crimes do not warrant death, are locked up there. It is said that there are not many people locked up now. That was mainly because there was a war between the three big hidden families thousands of years ago. That was why there was a need to lock up many cultivators there. Cultivators from the outside, like us, can only go up to the book collection level. If we want to go up further, we need a special method. It is guarded by the elders of the Xiao family. Only the main family members of the Xiao family can go up as they please. Yang Cheng was thinking about how he could find a way to go up to the top few levels of the pagoda. Xiao Qiqing might really be inside. However, the book collection level and above were all guarded by the elders of the Xiao family. It was really difficult. Walking together with Lan Fei to the vertical passage, Yang Cheng raised his head and looked up. There were golden formations and restrictions on every level, blinking and blinking, dazzling his eyes. By exerting spiritual pressure, these restrictions would cause a cultivator's ascension speed to slow down. The higher one went, the stronger the true essence required to break through the restrictions. This was also to test the cultivation level of the cultivators who entered the tower. If a soul formation cultivator wanted to rush into the highest level of the library and look at the most profound cultivation methods, it was almost impossible. The highest level of the library required at least karmic fire and dark water cultivation to smoothly enter. Some cultivators tried to force their way up. Although it was possible, they were rejected by the elders in the tower and had to obediently go down to the lower floors. This was to encourage the cultivators of the clan to cultivate diligently, and also to prevent the cultivators from spoiling things through excessive enthusiasm, biting off more than they could chew, and messing up their Tao hearts. However, As members of the Shao clan, juniors like Shao Qiufeng and Shao Manyan knew how to break the restrictions even though their cultivations weren't high enough. Yang Cheng and Lan Fei flew up, less than 5 floors together, and realized that it was already very difficult to break through with the early soul formation cultivator's true essence. Lan Fei was very considerate of Yang Cheng and said, "It's enough to go up to the 5th floor. The last time I came here, I was on the 3rd floor. Brother Shao, let's take a look at the 5th floor." He could have gone up another 3 to 5 floors, but he stayed with Yang Cheng. Yang Cheng felt a little embarrassed. Lan Fei really treated him as a friend and didn't want to leave him alone on the 5th floor, so he stayed with him. For a person who is so obsessed with cultivation, Lan Fei's decision was very precious. Yang Cheng patted the dark-skinned man's shoulder and thought to himself, "If the situation allows it in the future, I will definitely give you a pile of elixirs. I have no choice but to hide it from you now." The two of them entered the library on the 5th floor and looked around. There was a huge collection of books and some bamboo slips placed on dozens of bookshelves. The treasures of the ancient clans were definitely incomparable to those sects in the secular world. Although not every one of them was a good cultivation technique, there were still many rare items. Lan Fei quickly looked through a pile of close combat cultivation techniques and Buddhist mental cultivation techniques. He couldn't be bothered with Yang Cheng for now. Yang Cheng was not interested in these cultivation techniques. He casually flipped through a few. If it wasn't that they were too weak, then they were too superficial. There was too big of a gap with his current cultivation realm. They were only useful for cultivators below the tribulation passing stage. However, he saw a very thick book placed in the center. Yang Cheng's interest was piqued, and he walked over to take a look. Immemorial Cultivation Codex. Yang Cheng frowned. He was puzzled as to what this was. He flipped it open and took a look. He suddenly understood and couldn't help but feel a little happy. This was actually an encyclopedia of cultivation. The reason why it was said so was because it recorded the specific levels of cultivation since ancient times, as well as the specific differences and details between each level and the subsequent levels. For example, the difference between a fire departing stage cultivator and an aqua water stage cultivator was very big. This book used a very simple example. Usually, a fire departing stage cultivator could completely crush a 500-kilogram coiling dragon boulder, while an aqua water stage cultivator could crush a 2,000-kilogram coiling dragon boulder. The coiling dragon boulder was a kind of stone unique to the illusion realm. Its hardness was almost comparable to top gray hard jade, but could be seen everywhere. Therefore, it was often used to test the strength of the true essence. This kind of comparison could be said to be scientific measurement. Although it was not completely accurate, after all, the actual situation was much more complicated. It was also a relatively objective comparison. What made Yang Cheng even more interested was that there were some contents that he didn't know before and hadn't paid much attention to. He had never heard of these things from Xiao Qi before. It was also impossible for a woman to tell him everything. For example, how did the 3 Yang real fire tribulation and the 6 frost water tribulation pass through the tribulation? How did the heavenly fire and mysterious water test the cultivators, and so on? What made Yang Cheng even more amazed was that the tribulation realm could actually be advanced. Simply put, if the 3 Yang real fire tribulation cultivator could reach the peak of the hellfire tribulation, if he could have a higher level of comprehension, he could continue to enter the dark water, weak water, and other tribulation realms. Yang Cheng hadn't considered this question before. For example, how did the hellfire tribulation cultivator continue to progress? Was it purely increasing the true essence? Now it seemed that it wasn't the case. When a tribulation realm cultivator first entered the tribulation realm, it was influenced by aptitude, bone structure, cultivation method, etc., but it wasn't the same. After entering the 3 Yang real fire tribulation, it would be the same for the rest of his life. In the end, it still depended on perception and opportunity. But because the conditions were strict and aptitude was difficult to change, very few cultivators could advance smoothly. But this had already given Yang Cheng a wake-up call. Because those experts in the weak water stage might be able to enter, or someone had already entered the 9 heavenly thunder tribulation. It was just that he didn't know it yet. Unknowingly, a few hours had passed. Yang Chung read with relish while pondering over the contents of this cultivation code. At this time, Lan Fei had already chosen a protective cultivation method that he was extremely interested in and firmly memorized it. This was also due to the stimulation from the battle with Yang Chung. Seeing Yang Chung reading the cultivation code, Lan Fei couldn't help but feel puzzled. Brother Xiao, why do you keep reading this cultivation code? Don't you want to choose a cultivation method to cultivate? Yang Chung smiled lightly. I don't know much about cultivation. Reading this cultivation code has helped me understand a lot. So that's how it is. Actually, this cultivation code has many layers. It's a very common tool-type book in the illusion realm. I think you should choose a cultivation method first. Lan Fei suggested. Yang Chung didn't want to disappoint Lan Fei's good intentions. He looked around and used his divine sense to quickly sweep through all the cultivation methods on the 5th layer. When it landed on a bookshelf in the corner, he discovered that there was a cultivation method that was actually just a scroll made of animal skin. It was indeed different from the others. Yang Chung reached out and grabbed the cultivation method in his hand. Heaven's Destiny Remnant Scroll? Yang Chung couldn't tell what kind of cultivation method this was. It seemed to be an incomplete cultivation method. Brother Xiao, I've just seen this Heaven's Destiny Remnant Scroll. It's very obscure. Furthermore, there are Xiao clan elders' annotations below. Up until now, the highest realm that has cultivated this cultivation method has only reached the innate stage. Perhaps it's because the last layer of the cultivation method is incomplete, but still bad enough. It doesn't even have any attack methods. Lan Fei waved his hand, feeling that this cultivation method was extremely useless. Yang Chung became more and more interested. No matter how he looked at it, this scroll seemed to have been passed down for an extremely long time. If it was a normal cultivation method, why would it need to be preserved in this kind of rare animal skin? Without thinking too much, Yang Chung opened the scroll and gave it a simple glance. In the next moment, Yang Chung was instantly dumbstruck. He could only feel a muffled thunder exploding in his mind. Endless resolve, restoration scripture? Yang Chung didn't shout it out, but his heart was crying out in surprise. Chapter 1487. For a moment, Yang Chung thought that the scripture he handed over had fallen into the hands of the Xiao clan. However, he soon realized that it wasn't right. If the person who took the scripture was the one who took it, why would he place it here for the cultivators of the clan to read? Incomplete manual? Incomplete manual? Yang Chung thought it was ridiculous. Of course, it was an incomplete manual, because the last level of the Endless Resolve Restoration scripture did not have a manual. There was only the word rebirth. But then, Yang Chung became suspicious. Why did the Xiao family have the Endless Resolve Restoration scripture? And it was something passed down from ancient times. Or did the Xiao family originally come from the Xiao family? No one knew how long this ancient manual had been here. Countless people had read it and practiced it. Otherwise, the elders would not have made such a special conclusion. Yang Chung felt as if there was a thin layer of film blocking in front of him. He had a vague premonition of what was behind it, but it was shrouded in fog. He couldn't see through it for a while, so he could only give up for now. Lan Fei urged, Brother Xiao, hurry up and choose another cultivation technique. This cultivation technique is really useless. Yang Chen nodded with a smile and randomly picked a sword-controlling technique called 18 Swords of Lianyan. This sword-controlling technique wasn't outstanding, it was average, even slightly lacking compared to some of the Shushan sword techniques used by Huilin. Yang Chen only planned to pretend to use the flying sword in the future to confuse some people. Just as the two of them were about to leave the tower, a fashionably dressed, handsome man slowly descended from above and entered the 5th floor. It was the young master of the Xiao family, Xiao Qiufeng. He looked happy at the moment, as if he was in a good mood. Seeing him pass through the formation without any obstruction, Yang Chung finally saw the advantage of the Xiao family. They did have a special method to break through the formation. I was wondering who it was. So it's you two? Are you here to choose a manual? Although Xiao Qiufeng had just entered the distant fire stage, and his cultivation was not high in the family, He was the eldest son, after all. He did not even look at Yang Cheng and Lan Fei. Lan Fei immediately lowered his head. Yes, young master. I'm about to go down. You can leave. Xiao Chun, stay. I have something to say to him. Xiao Qiufeng raised his head. Lan Fei was stunned, but he didn't dare to ask. He nodded at Yang Cheng and flew down first. After Lan Fei left, an evil smile appeared on Xiao Qiufeng's face. He took out a red pill and asked, Xiao Chun, you have a low-grade red dew pill. Do you want it? Although Yang Cheng didn't know what Xiao Qiufeng was planning, it was most likely that he was up to something. He was thinking, should he take this opportunity to kill Xiao Qiufeng, then disguise himself as him and fly directly to the prison at the top of the tower? However, when he thought about it carefully, even if he disguised as him and entered the top of the pagoda without being discovered by the elders, if he found Xiao Qiqing, he would not be able to take her away easily. Xiao Tingsu was guarding outside. Moreover, if he couldn't find Xiao Qiqing, he wouldn't be able to continue staying in the Xiao family. The gains wouldn't make up for the losses. Thus, he pretended to be greedy. Yang Cheng hurriedly said, Of course I want to. Thank you, young master. Xiao Qiufeng immediately looked at him with disdain. He thought that Yang Cheng was in a daze because of a low-grade pill. He said leisurely, Then do something for me, and I'll give you the pill. May I ask what it is? Xiao Chun will not disappoint, young master. Yang Cheng smiled apologetically. Xiao Qiufeng walked in front of him and laughed evilly in a low voice. It's very simple. Aren't you close to the Zhao siblings? After 10 o'clock tonight, think of a way to take Zhao Muyang away from their residence. The further the better. For example, go to the martial arts field to spar. In short, don't let him stay by Zhao Ting's side. When Yang Cheng heard this, how could he not know what this guy was up to? He secretly sneered. Xiao Qiufeng couldn't hold it in so quickly. He had seen him lusting for Zhao Ting before. Although a large number of cultivators in the illusory realm wholeheartedly pursued the heavenly Tao, there was no lack of those who knew that they weren't talented enough and were obsessed with beauty, power, and status. Obviously, Xiao Qiufeng put most of his thoughts on beauty. However, when Xiao Qiufeng mentioned it, Yang Cheng suddenly thought of a plan. He secretly snickered, but his face showed determination after struggling and hesitating. Yes, Xiao Chun will definitely complete the task young master gives. Xiao Qiufeng laughed loudly and patted Yang Cheng's shoulder. Good. If you succeed this time, don't worry. The Zhao clan won't dare to do anything to you. I'm here. Yang Cheng snorted coldly in his heart. Who would believe you? He was guaranteed to be the scapegoat when the time came. However, after tonight, it didn't matter anymore. When he came out of the Azure Emperor's pagoda, Lan Fei was still waiting outside. There was a trace of worry in his eyes. Xiao Qiufeng was obviously not a good person in the clan. Everyone knew that, so Lan Fei didn't leave. Seeing that Yang Cheng came out safely, Lan Fei's face lit up. He stepped forward and said, Brother Xiao, is everything okay? No, young master just wanted to ask me how I train my body. I told you the truth, and everything is fine. Yang Cheng casually made up a story. Lan Fei heaved a sigh of relief. In the future, in the Xiao clan, you have to be wary of a few people. Young master is one, and second madam is another. Oh, why do you say that? Yang Cheng asked as he walked. Young master is not in the mood to train. He has been in the distant fire stage for many years, but he hasn't made any progress. The main reason is that he puts all his effort into beauty. Many of the Xiao clan's female cultivators have been touched by him. He also has relationships with many itinerant cultivators and female cultivators from other clans. Beauty is emptiness. Emptiness is beauty. There are always people who can't see through it. Lan Fei shook his head and sighed. What about second madam? Yang Cheng always felt that Su Yanin was a bit strange. Logically speaking, she was Xiao Qiqing's stepmother, so she could be considered as his mother-in-law. However, Yang Cheng didn't have the slightest opinion of her. First, this woman had no blood relationship with Xiao Qiqing. Second, this woman had abused Xiao Qiqing before. She didn't have the awareness of being a mother. Lan Fei looked around and confirmed that there was no one around. After confirming that it was safe, He lowered his voice and said to Yang Cheng mysteriously, I also heard it from an old cultivator here. Because second madam is sword maniac Su Xiaogong's sister, her position in the Xiao clan isn't lower than the Xiao clan's two masters. The Xiao clan's second master has always been outside the clan, leading his clansmen to search for alchemy materials. He's in charge of external affairs and rarely comes back. Therefore, it's inevitable that second madam is lonely. Occasionally, there will be rumors of her liking some young and handsome cultivator. The corner of Yang Cheng's mouth curled up slightly. He smiled strangely and said, It seems that Brother Lan Fei is also very interested in these rumors. I thought you were only interested in cultivation. Lan Fei's expression became awkward. He sighed and said, I don't want to either. However, when I interact with other cultivators and learn from each other, it's hard to avoid hearing these rumors. Moreover, in order to survive in the Xiao clan, I have to understand more. For example, there have been many young cultivators who were executed by the Xiao clan because they said that they offended her. To put it bluntly, it's just that when the matter is exposed, they will be directly killed. You and I are not considered handsome. You can rest assured. Yang Cheng joked. However, Lan Fei said seriously, Brother Xiao is a handsome man. You really have to be careful. I'm a crude man, dark and ugly. I will definitely not be targeted. Yang Cheng smiled and waved his hand, indicating that it was impossible. In his heart, he thought that the beautiful and voluptuous woman in the watercolor dress was indeed a stunner. If a cultivator had lustful thoughts, they would really not be able to resist. Lan Fei was probably speaking the truth. As for his cheap father-in-law, Xiao Majing, he was busy outside. It seemed that he was not as good as his big brother, Xiao Mahui, in the fight for power. No wonder he didn't see him. When they were about to part ways, Yang Cheng suddenly thought of something and said, Brother Lan Fei, my brother Zhao Muyang from the Zhao clan, is in the early stage of distant fire. He's been worrying that he can't find a suitable opponent to cultivate with. Are you willing to learn from him? When Lan Fei heard this, his eyes lit up. Although he has just entered the tribulation passing stage, his cultivation is still much higher than mine. I'm already close to the tribulation passing stage. It's naturally a good thing to learn from an opponent who is a level lower than me. I just don't know if Zhao Muyang is willing. Yang Cheng smiled brightly. Don't worry. You've answered a lot of questions for me. You and I are friends, so you can count on me. I'll ask him to find you tonight at 11 o'clock. You have to seize the opportunity to learn from him. Lan Fei was overjoyed. Normally, tribulation passing stage cultivators would not bother to learn from soul-forming stage cultivators. He immediately nodded and agreed. Chapter 1488. After Yang Cheng and Lan Fei finished discussing this matter, they went straight to the Zhao siblings' residence. Zhao Miyang was sitting cross-legged on a blue stone in the forest, cultivating his family's cultivation technique and breathing in the dense spiritual qi. Sensing Yang Cheng's arrival, Zhao Miyang opened his eyes and smiled warmly. Brother Xiao, it's not good for your cultivation if you keep coming to our place. What's wrong? Brother Zhao doesn't welcome me? Yang Cheng could not help but sigh in his heart. Most of these cultivators were cultivating every day. People like him, who did not need to specially cultivate and breathe in the spiritual qi of heaven and earth on their own at all times, were probably very rare. Unfortunately, these people in the illusion realm did not seem to understand the profoundness of the endless resolve restoration scripture. Or rather, they did not have the chance to be like him, lingering on the edge of life and death to comprehend the essence of the scripture. He did not know whether this was the goddess of fate's blessing or the heaven's compensation for his growth in the dark swamp. Zhao Miyang said with concern, Don't say that. Brother Xiao is our Zhao clan's benefactor. We will always remember it. However, in about a year, it will be the martial competition of the three clans. At that time, all cultivators below the age of 50 will have the opportunity to represent their respective clans. With Brother Zhao's talent and body tempering skills, if you receive the support of the Xiao clan's pills, you will be able to enter the late-stage soul formation stage within a year. You might even reach the tribulation passing stage. At that time, you will definitely shine and stand out among the young cultivators of the Xiao clan. The martial competition of the three clans only allows cultivators below the age of 50 to participate. Why is that? Yang Cheng did not understand what was going on. It seemed like the Shao clan placed a lot of importance on this martial competition and specially asked Su Yanan to ask her brother, Su Shaogong, for guidance. Zhao Muyang was stunned. Only then did he realize that Yang Cheng did not know. So he gave a simple explanation. The martial competition of the three clans was an arena battle that was held every 100 years by the three great clans in the illusion realm. At first, all the clans in the illusion realm participated, but now, only the three great hidden clans were qualified to participate. The reason there was such a tournament was because of the Eye of the Sky Demon, an ancient miraculous realm that opened once every 100 years. The Eye of the Sky Devil was located in the extreme southeast of the illusion. It was said that it was the tomb of a powerful sky devil in ancient times. It was also said that it was a special space formed by the self-destruction of a sky devil. It was also said that it was a battlefield in ancient times. However, the heavenly demon Eye was filled with a large number of ferocious devil spirits. After some cultivators died, their primordial spirits were sealed in the heavenly demon Eye. The primordial spirits gathered the spiritual chi inside and formed a fierce energy body. Some of these devil spirits had very low intelligence and were purely murderous in nature. Some had high cultivation when they were alive and had their own consciousness. Imagine, for tens of thousands of years, being locked up in a confined world, without a physical body, with only consciousness. What kind of pain was that? Faced with the choice of dying completely or finding a way to resurrect, the demon spirits all became fanatical monsters. Because the Eye of the Sky Devil had many magic treasures, cultivation methods, and elixirs left behind from ancient times, every time it opened, whether it was the hidden families or Hongming, they would send people into search. Those with lower cultivation did not dare to enter because there were many devil spirits inside. Their cultivation was extremely powerful. Even if they lost their physical bodies, some of them were abnormal and could compete with weak water stage cultivators. Therefore, every time they entered, every force had to send out weak water stage experts and bring other dark water stage experts. The reason why they could not all be the top experts was because the opening of the Eye of the Sky Devil would absorb the true essence pressure from the cultivators and help it close itself. This also meant that if all the people who entered were weak water stage experts, there would be less than 10 people and it would directly close. If these people wanted to come out, they would have to wait for 100 years. The premise was that they were not killed by the countless devil spirits inside. In the past, the hidden families and the people of Hongming all made a bloody storm in order to get more cultivators to enter. Later, everyone felt that it was not right to go on like this. The talents of each family had withered, and in the end, they would all perish together. Therefore, since a few thousand years ago, everyone set a rule that each family would send out the younger generation under the age of 50 to compete. The family that ranked at the top could send more cultivators to enter the Eye of the Sky Devil. Sending cultivators under the age of 50 was to supervise the cultivation of the younger generation. Secondly, it could also avoid the confrontation between the masters of the family, which would hurt their vitality and be taken advantage of by Hongming. One more person was equal to one more hope to find treasures and one more guarantee of safety. The result of the competition was naturally very important. This also became a test to see the cultivation of the young people of each family. Many young people who wanted to show their faces had to rely on the competition of the three families. As for Hongming, because the Heaven Stage Elders of Xiantian Island could not compromise on who would bring or send people to enter, and they could not fall out with the three hidden families, they had no choice but to withdraw from the competition. It is said that the devil spirits in the Eye of the Sky Devil believe that sucking the blood of living people can restore their bodies. Therefore, once they find cultivators, they will attack crazily. It is very dangerous. The Heaven Stage Elders in Hongming also do not want to take the risk. If they enter and do not come back, then their descendants and disciples in Hongming will be suppressed and humiliated. Therefore, it is normal for them to give up. Zhao Miang said. Yang Cheng did not expect there to be such a magical place in the illusion. He had seen devil cultivators in the demon realm. Could it be that the Eye of the Sky Devil was really a relic left by a powerful ancient sky devil? Those people who came out, did they bring out any powerful magic treasures or elixirs? Yang Cheng asked. Zhao Miang's face was full of desire. Of course there are. Although there are not big gains every time. After all, the Eye of the Sky Devil is only open for 3 days. But every family has a few high-grade magic treasures, and some are even immortal-grade magic treasures. Needless to say, elixirs and cultivation methods are brought out from there. An immortal weapon could allow a cultivator of the same level to fight against 2 or even 3. It was indeed a huge temptation, especially for those experts who were already standing at the top. Yang Cheng secretly thought that it would be great if he could go in and take a look. Who knows, he might find some high-grade magic treasures. Unfortunately, the entrance of the Eye of the Sky Devil was definitely guarded by a large number of people from the 3 families. They would definitely not let him go near. Even if he went in, it would be troublesome to come out. Every family could only send 1 weak water stage cultivator. The rest of the cultivators would be brought in according to the strength of the 3 families. But there would definitely be a large number of experts stationed outside. This also prevented the people from Hongmeng from taking advantage of the situation. After chatting for a while, Zhao Miang patted his head and asked, "All right, Brother Xiao, why are you looking for me?" Yang Cheng showed a slightly embarrassed look and said embarrassedly, "There is something that I need Brother Xiao's help with. I don't know if Brother Xiao can. Just say it. I treat Brother Xiao as a friend. Moreover, I have received so many favors. How can I refuse?" Zhao Miang said straightforwardly. Yang Cheng immediately told him about the matter of sparring with Lan Fei at night. He also specially added, Lan Fei said that he will return to the residence after 10 o'clock to wait for him. Brother Zhao, what do you think? Haha, so that's what it is. I also saw the battle between you and Lan Fei that day. His martial arts and lion's roar were very interesting. I also want to try it out. That's settled. I will go find him after 10 o'clock. Yang Cheng said with a face full of gratitude. Thank you, Brother Zhao, for not making me lose face. I hope that Brother Zhao will not bring Sister Zhao Ting. Lan Fei is a Buddhist disciple. He doesn't really like girls appearing at his residence. Zhao Miang nodded his head naturally and said, Don't worry. My sister also doesn't like to watch sparring. She won't go with me. I'm afraid that by that time, this lazy girl will already be asleep. Zhao Miang sighed helplessly. It seemed that his sister's lack of ambition was giving him a headache. After the matter was settled, Yang Cheng thanked him profusely and returned to his residence. He did not stay idle. He took out a normal flying sword and used the sword technique from the 18 swords of Lianyan. It was impossible for every cultivator to have a Dharma treasure. However, there were many flying swords made of fine iron. For example, Zhao Ting used a normal flying sword. Yang Cheng's residence had a flying sword from the Xiao family. Because he could not take out the Dharma treasure that he had snatched from his own space ring, he could only use a normal one. With Yang Cheng's cultivation realm, battle experience, and talent, he very quickly modified many of the weaker parts of the 18 swords of Lianyan. Slowly, he changed it into a more smooth and above-average sword control technique. If this sword technique was placed in the Azure Emperor's pagoda, this sword control technique would at least be placed in the 20-plus levels. It would be a cultivation technique for tribulation cultivators. Chapter 1489. It was almost 10 o'clock in the evening. Yang Cheng checked to see if there were any cultivators with high cultivation around, so as not to disturb his plan. After confirming, Yang Cheng went to the residence of the Zhao siblings. With the blinding leaf protecting him, he deliberately hid himself. Even cultivators in the weak water stage might not be able to accurately detect him, let alone Xiao Qiufeng. He arrived at the back of the wooden house of the Zhao siblings and hid behind an old tree. He spread out his divine sense to check the movements in the wooden house. Because Xiao Qiufeng's cultivation was far lower than his, even if his divine sense found him, he wouldn't feel anything. Sure enough, there was only Zhao Ting left in the wooden house, and, as Zhao Muyang said during the day, Zhao Ting had already fallen asleep. Cultivators could indeed not sleep, but after all, they grew up as ordinary people. Young cultivators like the Zhao siblings often couldn't get rid of the habit of sleeping and didn't even want to change it. After about 5 minutes, Xiao Qiufeng's figure appeared outside the wooden house. He looked around sneakily, and after confirming that there was no one, he gently opened the door. Yang Cheng's figure flashed like a ghost, and in the blink of an eye, he appeared behind Xiao Qiufeng. Xiao Qiufeng was looking greedily at Zhao Ting, who was sleeping on the bed. That exquisite figure, that sweet and pleasant face, made him salivate. The first time he saw Zhao Ting, he felt that she was a refreshing little pepper, and he really wanted to sleep with her. So he used the excuse of refining the heaven cloud pill to keep the Zhao siblings. As for how to think of a way to steal this fat piece of meat, he already had a plan. This was not the first time he had used this trick of luring the tiger away from the mountain to get a female cultivator. Generally, these female cultivators whose cultivation was lower than his and who didn't dare to resist could only endure it after being slept with by him. If he gave them some low-grade spirit pills, some of them would be willing to be his female slave, which made him especially unscrupulous. When he was in a good mood and focused, Xiao Qiufeng didn't even notice that there was someone behind him. By the time he reacted, Yang Chen's hand was already wrapped around his throat from behind. Xiao Qiufeng's throat tightened, and his eyes widened in fear. His opponent was able to suddenly appear behind him and attack him. So his cultivation was naturally far higher than his. Who was this person? Why did it appear here? Yang Cheng didn't give him a chance to think. He injected a stream of true essence into Xiao Qiufeng's fainting acupuncture point. Xiao Qiufeng's vision went black and he lost consciousness. The difference in their cultivation was too great. He was unable to resist this kind of true core energy. Zhao Ting, who was in the room, seemed to sense something. She opened her eyes in a daze, but when she looked at the door, Xiao Qiufeng had already been taken away by Yang Cheng. Zhao Ting thought she was dreaming. She grabbed her hair, pouted, and continued to sleep. Yang Cheng was very familiar with this kind of kidnapping work, and it was very smooth. After a few turns, they brought Xiao Qiufeng to a secluded forest that they had found earlier. The Xiao family occupied a vast area, and because of this, they were very scattered. It was very easy to find a place where no one would notice them. After putting Xiao Qiufeng down, Yang Cheng injected another stream of true essence to wake him up. Xiao Qiufeng opened his eyes and touched his neck in pain. He remembered that he had been grabbed. In the blink of an eye, he was actually in a deep and dark forest. He couldn't help but shiver. Following that, a familiar and unexpected face appeared in front of him. Yang Cheng was looking at him with a strange smile. It's you, Xiao Chun." Xiao Qiufeng exclaimed. Yang Cheng squatted down and said with a harmless smile, "Young master, are you all right? Why are you here? What happened to me?" Xiao Qiufeng asked angrily. "It's very simple. You have been caught by me, and now I want to ask you some questions. If you obediently answer, I will give you a way out. If you don't cooperate, I will kill you right now." Yang Cheng said very calmly. Xiao Qiufeng seemed to have heard something funny. "Haha, you said you want me to die? What the F***ck are you? You're just a dog raised by our Xiao family. You are just an early-stage soul formation cultivator. Did your cultivation go wrong and burn your brain?" Yang Cheng touched his face in distress. "I knew it. If you were smart enough, why would you think of such an idiotic booklet to play with women?" As Yang Cheng said that, he suddenly revealed his true essence pressure. Xiao Qiufeng felt like a surging tsunami of true essence was about to drown and crush him. He was so scared that he screamed. Fortunately, they were in the forest far away from the Xiao family. Otherwise, some cultivators might have been startled. How did you? Xiao Qiufeng's face turned pale and cold sweat poured down like rain. Yang Cheng withdrew his pressure and asked with a fake smile, "Now, I will ask you, and you answer. Do you have any questions?" Xiao Qiufeng swallowed his saliva. He didn't know what cultivation level Yang Cheng was at, but he was definitely not early-stage soul formation. Not only him, but even his father was tricked, but he didn't dare to think too much about who Yang Cheng was. He could only nod his head vigorously, seeking a chance to live. That's good. Yang Cheng smiled kindly, but in Xiao Qiufeng's eyes, he looked even more frightening. Yang Cheng stood up and paced a few steps. You have a sister named Xiao Qiqing, right? That be asterisk TCH? Xiao Qiufeng was taken aback. Yang Cheng glared at him. His eyes were about to spit fire. Mother asterisk her. If you dare call her that again, I will kill you. Xiao Qiufeng nodded and said obediently, Yes, yes. Yes, Jiqing is my second uncle's daughter. Is she with the Xiao family now? Yang Cheng asked. Xiao Qiufeng was confused. Why are you asking about her? Are you? Cut the crap. Answer. Yang Cheng went up and slapped Xiao Qiufeng's face. Xiao Qiufeng cried out in pain. The slap was powerful, but it still made his head feel like it was about to explode. I don't know where she is, but she's definitely not with the Xiao family. She escaped from the illusion in order to escape the marriage. I heard that the Luo family found her a few days ago, but I don't know if they caught her or not. Second uncle already said that it was Xiao Qiqing's own decision to betray the family. He doesn't want to acknowledge this daughter anymore. So even if she came back, she would have been caught by the Luo family. Xiao Qiufeng rubbed his face and said timidly. Yang Cheng narrowed his eyes. Then why did you go to the Azure Emperor's pagoda in the morning? Isn't there someone locked up at the top of the pagoda? Xiao Qiufeng shook his head. There's someone locked up there, but it's not Xiao Qiqing. It's true. There are only some people who went against the Xiao family and some cultivators who betrayed us. You're not going to see them? You think I'll believe you? You're so happy to see those traitors? Yang Cheng laughed coldly. Xiao Qiufeng didn't dare to look up. He stole a glance and saw that Yang Cheng's face was getting darker and darker. He replied in a low voice, It's a wet nurse called Sushin. She's Xiao Qiqing's wet nurse. She helped Xiao Qiqing escape, so the family wanted to kill her. I saw that she was pitiful, so I begged Grandpa to let her stay in prison. Yang Cheng suddenly remembered that Xiao Qiqing had mentioned that she didn't know what happened to her wet nurse. So she was locked up in the Azure Emperor's pagoda? With Xiao Qiufeng's character, even a fool could guess what he had done to Sushin. Sushin had probably been used as a tool by Xiao Qiufeng to vent his anger in the past 2 years. When he thought about how Xiao Qiqing's benefactor, the wet nurse who had brought her up, had been defiled by this bastard, Yang Cheng wanted to smash his head. I don't think you want to save her. You've taken a fancy to her. Xiao Qiufeng stammered. I saved her. She should repay me a little. Yang Cheng resisted the urge to kill him. He made up his mind to save Sushin. Otherwise, he wouldn't have the face to face Xiao Qiqing in the future. I know that the Xiao family has a special way to enter the Azure Emperor's pagoda and break the restrictions. Tell me the method. When Xiao Qiufeng heard this, he hurriedly knelt down and shook his head desperately. No, absolutely not. The Azure Emperor's pagoda is the most important place in our family. If I tell you the method and my father and grandfather find out, they'll kill me. I can give you spirit pills. I can give you magic treasures. Please let me go. Yang Cheng directly covered the head of the pretty boy with one hand and asked coldly, Then you can choose. Do you want to die immediately or leave a chance for survival? Xiao Qiufeng felt a cold, murderous aura fill the air, as if the god of death was breathing in his ear. The ice-cold claws had already reached out to him. He had never felt such a cruel, violent, and crazy killing intent in his life. Chapter 1490. With a shiver, Xiao Qiufeng's mental defenses finally collapsed. He fell to the ground, his breathing intermittently as he murmured, I'll speak. I'll speak. Once he gave up resisting, Xiao Qiufeng no longer held back and told Yang Cheng the special method to break the seal. This was actually a password method, but it used true essence to unlock the lock. Through a special method, it could be unlocked. Yang Cheng learned it very easily, but he could feel the wisdom of his ancestors. There were very few people in the cultivation world who knew about formations. Most of them knew about formations and how to break them from ancient times. The ancestors of the Xiao family indeed had very profound attainments in formations. Their intelligence was peerless. It was a pity that this group of descendants were all good-for-nothings now. Just like Xiao Qiufeng, he was nothing without the shell of the Xiao family's young master. As the young master of the Xiao family, do you need any special procedures to enter the Azure Emperor's pagoda? For example, to ask your grandfather? Yang Cheng asked carefully. Xiao Qiufeng shook his head dispiritedly. No need. Our family can go in any time. Then if I ask you to bring Sushin out, can you do it? Yang Cheng asked deliberately. Hearing this, Xiao Qiufeng saw a glimmer of hope and quickly nodded. Of course. Sushin has already been handed over to me. She's like my slave. I can lock her up or bring her out. The elders inside and the granny guarding the Azure Emperor's pagoda won't stop me. As long as you let me go, I'll immediately bring Sushin out. Yang Cheng grinned. Take off your clothes. I said take off your clothes, pants, shoes, all of them. Yang Cheng looked at Xiao Qiufeng up and down. Xiao Qiufeng swallowed and asked in a small voice, are you going to do that to me? That your head. Yang Cheng fiercely kicked Xiao Qiufeng's chest, staying in the illusion realm, quite a lot. Strip. Xiao Qiufeng tumbled a few times before obediently taking off his clothes. His heart was filled with hatred as he thought that once he returned to the Xiao family, he would definitely report this to the old man and have him captured and tortured to death. When Yang Cheng saw Xiao Qiufeng take off his clothes, he saw a grayish-green ring on his hand. He knew that it was a spatial ring, so he said, "Give me the ring." Xiao Qiufeng's expression became bitter, but his life was more important. He reluctantly took off the ring and gave it to Yang Cheng. Yang Cheng said with satisfaction, "All right, I don't need underwear. Then can I go now?" Xiao Qiufeng smiled apologetically. Yang Cheng nodded. "You can go, but you can't go back to the Xiao family." "Then where do you want me to go?" Xiao Qiufeng was puzzled. Yang Cheng pointed to the ground, rode to the underworld, then a ball of blue flame sprang up from one of Yang Cheng's left hands. In an instant, a faint blue light was reflected in the forest, like the gathering of beautiful insects at midnight. However, Xiao Qiufeng felt a terrifying power from it, so he subconsciously retreated and wanted to escape. This was the blue flame that Yang Cheng created by combining the Samadhi True Fire and Ming Water. Although it was a little overkill to deal with Xiao Qiufeng, but because he had bullied Xiao Qiqing and tarnished Su Exion's relationship, Yang Cheng really hated this guy. He felt disgusted by using the Chaos Cauldron to absorb this guy. Moreover, the power of the Chaos Cauldron was not as easy to hide as his own cultivation, so it was not worth it to use it casually. No, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Xiao Qiufeng finally realized that something was wrong, so he turned around and wanted to fly away. But Yang Cheng's speed was too fast, and with the power of heaven and earth, he was pressed back to the ground like a giant net. Bang! Falling heavily on the ground full of fallen leaves, Xiao Qiufeng saw a blue flame draw a beautiful but fatal arc from Yang Cheng's hand and fall on his body. A shrill scream pierced through the forest, and it was heart-wrenching. Xiao Qiufeng's body, starting from his limbs, was gradually eroded by the blue flame. He turned into a pool of blood and evaporated instantly. His true core strength was also eroded, so he could not compete with the blue flame at all. The immense pain caused him to faint and wake up again. It had only been a few seconds, but he had felt the pain of countless centuries. Finally, Xiao Qiufeng's whole body turned into a cloud of mist that evaporated in the air, leaving only a few pieces of his clothes. Yang Cheng did not feel the slightest bit about this guy's death. Even if he was the young master of the Xiao family, one of the 3 hidden families, he was just a stepping stone on the road to find Xiao Qiqing. After picking up Xiao Qiufeng's clothes and boots and putting them on, Yang Cheng shook his body and turned into Xiao Qiufeng's appearance again. Yang Cheng could perfectly imitate Xiao Qiufeng, and with a little control of his true core strength, he could change his vocal cords and adjust his voice to Xiao Qiufeng's. After adjusting his cultivation to the early stage of distant fire, Yang Cheng looked at his appearance with satisfaction and leisurely returned to the Xiao family. As for the identity of Xiao Cheng, it was a soul-forming stage loose cultivator after all. If the Xiao family found out that he was missing, they would not care too much. Yang Chung thought for a while and decided to go find Su Xian directly. It would definitely arouse suspicion at night, so it would be better to go tomorrow morning. Anyway, the real Xiao Qiufeng was gone, so no one would continue to hurt Su Xian. On the way back, he casually looked through the space ring that Xiao Qiufeng left behind. Other than a mid-grade flying sword magic treasure, there were some clothes and spirit pills. These spirit pills were good things in the eyes of others, but in Yang Cheng's eyes, they were trash. The quality was too low, so he felt that it was a bit unlucky. Xiao Qiufeng died without leaving anything good for a murderer like him. When he arrived at the Xiao family, Yang Chung remembered that he did not know where Xiao Qiufeng lived. He only heard Lan Fei say that the younger generation of the Xiao family lived in the general area. In desperation, Yang Chung could only land on the ground and pretend to take a stroll. He walked between the quiet courtyards, but in reality, he was looking for a house that looked like Xiao Qiufeng's residence. Just as he walked past an ancient house with an elegant and luxurious architectural style, which seemed to be from the Tang and Song dynasties, a fragrant wind flew out and instantly pounced into Yang Cheng's arms. "Sweetheart, since you're here, why are you still sneaking around? Are you scratching my heart?" A soft and charming voice, a peach cheeks, and a beautiful face with sparkling eyes. It was Xiao Mannion. At this moment, this cousin had already taken off the purplish red Han costume that she wore during the day and was only wearing a translucent gauze nightgown. A white ribbon was tied around her slender waist, and two long white legs were vaguely visible under it, twisting and turning. Xiao Mannion hooked her arms around Yang Cheng's neck and pouted her red lips. Seeing that Yang Cheng was in a daze and didn't say anything, she couldn't help but hit Yang Cheng's chest with her fist. "Why are you in a daze? You didn't look at me stupidly when I saw you before. Could it be that your sister is exceptionally beautiful today?" Xiao Mannion giggled. Yang Chun swallowed his saliva and smelled the orchid-like scent. Glancing down, he could see a pair of white rabbits squeezing her cleavage at the open neckline of Xiao Mannion's tulle nightgown. Two slightly dark grapes were proudly standing up. Even though Yang Cheng was experienced and knowledgeable and had seen countless women, he never thought that Xiao Qiufeng would actually have such a relationship with his cousin. Xiao Mannion, were all the hidden families so chaotic, or was Xiao Qiufeng too strange? Yang Cheng wanted to cry, but no tears came out. How could he escape? If he wanted to play the role of Xiao Qiufeng, it was obvious that he couldn't reject Xiao Mannion. All of these thoughts happened in the blink of an eye. Yang Cheng quickly revealed a lecherous expression, which was very similar to Xiao Qiufeng himself. He reached out and wrapped his arms around Xiao Mannion's slender waist. His fingers exerted a little force as he pinched the soft and elastic flesh. His other hand pinched the woman's chin and raised her head. "You can't help it? You ran out on your own after taking a walk here, my little beauty?" Xiao Mannion pouted coquettishly and snorted. "At least you have a little conscience. I thought you wouldn't harm that girl from the Zhao family tonight, but you still thought of me, your sister. I didn't dote on you for nothing." As she spoke, Xiao Mannion took the initiative to move forward and kiss Yang Cheng's mouth. She even put her soft tongue into Yang Cheng's mouth. He didn't expect Xiao Mannion to be so direct. She didn't care that they were still outside the courtyard and wanted to get to the point. It was likely that she had slept around with Xiao Qiufeng a lot in the past. In fact, based on Yang Cheng's experience, this woman should have had a lot of relationships with various cultivators in private. He thought of the second wife, Su Yanan, that Lan Fei had mentioned. He couldn't help but think, like mother, like daughter. Chapter 1491. Although she was a pair of used shoes, her looks and figure were still decent. Compared to the delinquents Yang Chen used to hang out in the bars and nightclubs in Zhonghai before he met Lin Ruoxi, she was much more classy. Naturally, he wouldn't reject her. Moreover, Yang Cheng was not a good person in this aspect. On the contrary, since young, even when he had 17 by his side, he had played around with all kinds of foreign women. The number of women he had harmed abroad was in the 4 digits. As long as they were good-looking, any background and origin were not a problem. Otherwise, he would not have happily accepted Catherine's request and slept with the Queen of Wales, who was in a sorry state at that time. A woman like Xiao Manyan was obviously not a chaste and virtuous woman. Yang Cheng did not feel that he would feel guilty if he really slept with her, nor did he need to feel the slightest sense of responsibility. Instead, he could not be defeated and give himself away. Since this show was going to go on, he had to do it to his heart's content. If he did not settle this chick, he was afraid that it would arouse suspicion, Yang Cheng thought. Thinking of this, Yang Cheng did not stand on ceremony. His lips and tongue moved at the same time, his face grinding and squeezing Xiao Minyan's face. He exerted his kissing skill to the extreme and immediately kissed this cousin in the darkness until she was moaning. Xiao Manyan did not notice the slightest difference, because in terms of technique, Xiao Qiufeng, who always played with women, was a master in all aspects. Finally finding a gap, Xiao Manyan pushed Yang Cheng's chest and said with a seductive look, "Come into my room. Although there is no one outside, it is not convenient." Without saying anything, Yang Cheng grabbed the woman and rushed in her boudoir. As soon as he entered, he pressed Xiao Manyan down on a soft bed with a red curtain. After pulling the woman's white translucent silk nightgown open, he played with the pair of soft white balls to his heart's content. However, Xiao Manyan seemed to suddenly think of something. She called out to Yang Cheng to wait first, stretched out her hand, and waved a stream of vital energy, igniting an incense burner in the middle of the bedroom. Immediately, the fragrance of incense filled the air. Yang Cheng smelled the decadent fragrance and frowned. "What are you doing?" Xiao Minyan's eyes revealed a trace of apology. She stuck out her red tongue and licked Yang Cheng's wet chest. "Brother Qiufeng, don't be angry. I'm not saying that you can't do it. I just want to serve you better. Didn't I use this Dachira incense before? You were brave on me for more than 2 hours at that time." Yang Cheng secretly heaved a sigh of relief. So as to help Xiao Qiufeng, the useless guy, improve his abilities. Did he need it? There was no need at all. However, when dealing with a woman like Xiao Manyan, Yang Cheng was not interested in making her feel comfortable. He would not do as much foreplay as he did with his women, such as caressing and kissing. Since it was to vent and act, then he should get to the point as soon as possible. With an evil smile, Yang Cheng flipped Xiao Minyan's fair and tender body over and lifted the thin cover on her butt. He stretched out his hand and slapped it hard. Pa 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 pa. Accompanied by the crisp sound of slapping, there were many red palm prints on the 2 fat white eggs. They trembled, and the juice in the middle of the peach flowed out. Yang Cheng saw Xiao Manyan turn around with a face full of enjoyment, as if she really liked being hit by him. As expected of a bitch, Yang Cheng chuckled, took off his pants, and directly went in a battle. Before Xiao Manyan could react, she felt a giant object suddenly piercing into her. The tunnel below her, which was originally not very tight, was filled with every inch of her soft flesh because of the sudden increase in size. She couldn't help but let out a cry of surprise. "Oh, brother, your place, how'd it get so big?" Only then did Yang Cheng remember that his place was not the same as Xiao Qiufeng's. He didn't think too much about it, so how could he tell the size of this fellow's lower body with his eyes? Thus, he rudely slapped his cousin's buttocks and said with a matter-of-fact expression, "Stupid woman, don't you know that you can change it by taking medicine?" Could it be? Is it the legendary Earth Tiger Heavenly Yang pill that can strengthen treasures in a short period of time? Xiao Manyan really knew that there was such a pill and asked in surprise. Yang Cheng didn't care so much. What Earth Tiger, Heavenly Tiger? It's not like you have a white tiger. Regardless of the consequences, Yang Cheng continued to vent his anger. Wave after wave of violent attacks were like a tide that wanted to engulf Xiao Manyan. Xiao Manyan felt as if there was a ferocious beast behind her that didn't know when to stop. She only felt that her cousin was really too powerful today. She thought that it was also the effect of the Earth Tiger Heavenly Yang pill, so she didn't make any guesses. In fact, under the cover of a leaf, it was impossible to tell that this Xiao Qiufeng was a fake, so Xiao Manyan didn't have much suspicion. An hour and a half later, She had already lost count of how many times. Her entire body seemed to have been sucked dry, and her eyes were a little white. It wasn't that a late-stage soul formation cultivator couldn't handle the torment, but that Xiao Manyin was completely immersed in the pleasure of a man and a woman. She didn't want to use her true essence to adjust her body at all. She treated herself as an ordinary woman and endured it just like that. In the end, Xiao Manyin was in a daze. She felt that there was an emptiness below her body. That big guy was pulled out, and she could immediately feel a cool breeze filling her lower body. Following that, Xiao Manyin was turned over, and her cheeks were pinched. She opened her mouth blankly. Oh! Yang Cheng stuffed his dragon horn into the woman's mouth. After a few rounds of rapid entry and exit, he released his essence. In the past, he had slept with his own women. The women all wanted to have children, and Yang Cheng couldn't bear to do such things to them that he might feel that it was too much. Therefore, he had released it into the women's bodies. However, there was no need for this Xiao Manyin. He might as well let this girl have a midnight snack. Xiao Manyin didn't seem to expect that Yang Cheng would do such a thing. When she realized what the sticky, fishy smell in her mouth was, she looked at Yang Cheng with a complicated and misty expression. Following that, she closed her mouth and swallowed it in one gulp. Licking her rosy lips, Xiao Manyin got up and hugged Yang Cheng's neck. She smiled charmingly and said, "Brother, you're so naughty. How did you think of such a trick? Do you want me to suck you dry?" Yang Cheng pinched her chin with 2 fingers and said with an evil smile, "Do you like this kind of rough method?" "I do. I love you so much." Xiao Manyin came up to kiss Yang Cheng passionately again. She murmured, "Brother is the best to Manyin. Brother, sleep here tonight. Tomorrow, you're going out again, and I'll miss you again." "Going out?" Yang Cheng broke out in a cold sweat. So Xiao Qiufeng was going out tomorrow? Fortunately, this girl was begging him to have sex with her. Otherwise, he might have been exposed. Yang Cheng put on an act and asked, "Why don't I stay here and accompany you, little beauty?" Xiao Manyin rolled her eyes at him. "How can that be? Uncle wants to bring you to visit the collateral family of the Xiao clan, so that when you take over the position of the clan head in the future, there will be less resistance and more support. Big brother, your talent in cultivation is average. If you don't build a good relationship with them, it will be troublesome if big uncle and my father have another child in the future, or if grandfather finds a collateral descendant of the Xiao family to replace you." Yang Cheng thought to himself, so that's how it is. They're going to visit those collateral family clans. As a hidden clan, how could it be possible that the Xiao clan only has one bloodline? It seemed that Xiao Qiufeng was under quite a bit of pressure. It was just that he didn't want to improve, and as the Xiao family's young master, his cultivation was quite low. If he didn't rely on his connections, it would be difficult for him to become the family leader in the future. However, it didn't matter. Now that he was dead, he had to visit those relatives in his place. There was no other way. He could only postpone the plan to save Su Xian. However, because sword maniac Su Xiaogong would arrive in half a month, this trip wouldn't last long. After all, Xiao Mahui would definitely rush back. "I'm going out. You can find another man. It doesn't matter." As Yang Cheng spoke, he got up from the bed and began to put on his clothes. He was still a bit unwilling to sleep with this woman for a night. Xiao Manyin giggled and hooked her arms around Yang Cheng's neck from behind. "Big brother, are you jealous? Little sister hasn't played with those barbarian men for a long time. Those cultivators are nothing more than slaves raised by our family. They're just tools for me to pass time. You should know that little sister likes you the most, big brother." Yang Cheng felt a chill run down his spine. This brother and sister were really jackals of the same tribe. They couldn't even bear his big scale. "Big brother, it's fine if you don't stay, but you have to be careful when you leave tomorrow. There's still a year before the martial competition of the 3 clans begins. Those collateral descendants of Xiao family all want to use you as a stepping stone." Chapter 1492. Yang Cheng felt that this woman was using her 2 lumps of soft flesh to squeeze and rub his back. The 2 protrusions were particularly stimulating, leaving a slightly wet mark. However, Yang Cheng wasn't affected. He had already vented his feelings. With this woman's level, she really didn't have the qualifications to make him interested in having sex with her again. Which woman in the family wasn't more charming than her? Stepping on me to climb up? They wouldn't dare. Yang Cheng actually didn't know the specifics of the situation. He just said it in an arrogant tone. Xiao Manyan really didn't notice anything. She giggled and said, "Brother, don't forget that the three clans compete once every 100 years. The eldest sons and grandsons of the three clans have to participate. The young geniuses transferred from the collateral clans also have to help. According to the situation in the past hundreds of years, the eldest sons and grandsons of the main clan who have bad results will most likely not have the face to continue as the clan successor after the competition. At that time, the experts of the collateral clans will have the opportunity to enter the main clan. Those little bastards of the collateral clans may not be able to beat me." Yang Cheng pretended to be disdainful. "Sai, brother, it's better to be careful. Look at the Luo clan's patriarch, Luo Qinxiu. His father was from the collateral clans. He shone brilliantly in the three clans competition and was pulled into the main clan by the previous clan leader. Now that the Luo clan has fallen into Luo Qinxiu's hands, the original disciples can only become the great elder of the Luo clan. Luo Qinxiu is as talented as his father. It will be difficult for the great elder to regain the position of the patriarch. Sister doesn't want this to happen in our clan in the future. What if the stinky men of the other collateral clans come to bully sister?" Xiao Manyan revealed a trace of resentment and worry. Yang Cheng felt disgusted, but still put on a distressed expression. He turned around and pinched Xiao Manyan's chest. "Sister, don't worry. How can Brother Bear to send a little vixen like you into the mouth of others?" In his heart, he thought that if the geniuses of the other clans really entered the main clan, this little playboy would probably throw himself at them. How could he care about this, cousin? After chatting with Xiao Manyan for a while, Yang Cheng came out. He couldn't find his house, so he simply gave up and went directly to the quiet martial arts arena. Tomorrow, he would have to leave with Sorrowless and the others. He didn't know how long he would have to stay with them. Yang Cheng could only take it one step at a time. It would be best if he didn't give himself away. Of course, even if he did, he could just leave and turn back into Shaochun. It would just take a lot of effort. At dawn the next day, Sorrowless Mahuei and the others were ready to leave. They were about to ask the housekeeper, Xiao Yuan, to call his son over. But as soon as they walked out of the main hall, they saw Yang Cheng practicing on a giant tree beside the practice field. For a moment, Sorrowless Mahuei and the other Xiao family elders were all surprised. Since when did Xiao Qiufeng, this naughty brat, start practicing in the middle of the night? Even Sorcerer Moi Hui didn't believe that his son was so hardworking. But Yang Cheng pretended to be embarrassed and flew down from the giant tree. He cupped his hands and said to Sorrowless Moi Hui, "Father, please forgive me. I forgot the time when I was meditating." Sorrowless Moi Hui saw Yang Cheng's embarrassed expression and thought that he was embarrassed after being discovered by them. He thought to himself, could it be that I've been wrong about my son? He had actually been secretly working hard to cultivate. After careful inspection, he found that Xiao Qiufeng had actually entered the middle stage of the distant fire realm. "Qiufeng, did your cultivation level increase last night?" Sorrowless Moi Hui was surprised. Yang Cheng had indeed deliberately increased his cultivation level from the early stage of the distant fire realm to the middle stage. Anyway, this was actually reasonable. Xiao Qiufeng had been in the distant fire realm for a long time. Maybe it's because of the pressure I accidentally broke through last night, Yang Cheng said with shame. Sorrowless Moi Hui laughed and patted his son's shoulder with satisfaction. "Not bad. It's good that you have the heart. Although there's not much time left until the martial arts competition of the three families, as long as you improve fast enough, your grandfather can still protect you. As the successor of the Xiao family, it is not shameful to temporarily be worse than some of the collateral disciples. As the saying goes, great talents mature slowly. You're still very young. Thank you, father and grandfather, for your trust. Qiufeng will definitely be more hardworking in the future." Yang Cheng immediately showed an expression of relief. as if he had received a great deal of trust and encouragement. This series of expressions was purposeful, and it was also the result of Yang Cheng's careful consideration. Seeing his son's joy of being recognized, sorrowless Mo Hui began to wonder if he had been too harsh on his son before. His son worked hard, but didn't make much progress, so he pretended that he didn't work hard and didn't want to disappoint him. Today, he accidentally saw through it and was recognized, so he looked so touched. It had to be said that the hearts of all parents were pitiful. Sorrowless Mo Hui always thought of his son in a good way, which was exactly what Yang Cheng wanted. For a moment, no matter how sorrowless Mo Hui looked at his son, he simply didn't have any other thoughts, and his mood was especially good. Okay, everyone is here. Let's go. We must return within half a month, so as to not delay the Su family's welcome. Sorrowless Mo Hui ordered. The group of elders and Shao family cultivators behind him loudly agreed, and the group quickly left the Shao family under Sorrowless Mo Hui's lead. Yang Cheng silently followed this group of people and listened to the elders' conversation. He also had a clearer understanding of the relationship network of the hidden families. Starting from the main family, there were the same kind of collateral families, such as second uncle, third uncle, and so on. These collateral families of the same root were the first to replace the main family if the main family encountered a disaster, or if there were no outstanding talents. Therefore, first, the main family had to control and supervise these collateral families, and second, they had to try their best to maintain good relations, so as to avoid open and secret fighting and not wait for the other two families to invade. In fact, for the sake of harmony between the main family and the collateral families, all the same kind of family elders, as long as their cultivation had reached the crossing calamity stage, would become the Shao family elders after retiring. The other Luo family and the Ning family also had the establishment of the Elders' Council. The Elders' Council's power was lower than the family head, but they had the power to interfere with some important decisions of the family, and had the right to elect the collateral families to take over when the main family had no successor. Below them were the first to become a vassal family, and they had powerful masters, such as the Su family. After Su Shaogong, who was at the middle stage of the weak water stage, their status immediately rose, and they were even more important than some of the collateral families. The masters of the weak water stage, although in the illusion were far more hidden in the dark than on the surface, were still very rare. After all, the three families ultimately competed with the masters of the weak water stage. The reason why the Luo family was the strongest was because they had the most masters of the weak water stage and above, but only the core figures of each family roughly knew how many there were. The lifespan of the weak water stage cultivators could reach up to 1,000 years, and as their cultivation deepened, they could even live longer. Perhaps some masters had not come out for hundreds of years, and even the heads of the families did not know if they were still alive. This group of people who actually stood at the top of the three families were called Grand Elders. Yang Cheng's heart was a little heavy. At present, he only saw Xiao Tingsu, the grandmother who guarded the Qing Emperor Pagoda in the Shao family, and this grandmother must be the Grand Elder. Then, where would the other Grand Elders be? He might be able to rely on the deterrent power of the Chaos Cauldron, and not be defeated in front of hundreds of masters of the Dark Water stage. But if he really encountered a few masters of the weak water stage with profound cultivation, then he would not be at an advantage. However, these masters of the weak water stage of the older generation would probably be disdainful to come out at will. They would definitely pay more attention to how to prolong their lives, seek a higher way of heaven, or advance to the 9 heavenly thunder tribulation. It was not easy to reach the weak water stage and even advance to the 9 heavenly thunder tribulation, but if they died because of the problem of their lifespan, what use would the family be? In the past, Yang Cheng may not have believed that there were so many masters in the world, but the experience in the number 1 office made him admit that he was too arrogant. Whether it was the major families or Hongming, it was the same. The Grand Elders did not want to fight with each other, because if they fought, they could not guarantee who would die. It was not easy for everyone to get to this point. Why would they sacrifice their lives for a group of juniors in the family? If the family was not at the critical moment of life and death, this group of people should not have any reaction. They had long accepted the struggle for power and let the juniors play. Otherwise, Xiao Mahui would not specially go to the Su family to ask Su Xiaogong to guide the cultivators in the family. He would directly ask one or two grand elders, and they would not be worse than Su Xiaogong. It was estimated that even the head of the family, Xiao Mengyu, did not have the ability to ask those grand elders to come out of seclusion, so he came up with this unwise plan to let Su Yanan go to her parents' house to ask her brother for help. Chapter 1493. They didn't fly very fast. From time to time, Yang Cheng stealthily led the elders to talk about the illusion and the family's information, so there weren't many flaws. In the past, Xiao Qiufeng was ignorant and incompetent. Basically, he didn't ask much about the family's secrets and the history of the illusion. Now that he was shameless to ask, the elders talked about it excitedly. The more Yang Cheng listened, the more he felt that the illusion was full of dangers, so he had to be extra careful. There were many things that Xiao Qiqing didn't mention before. In fact, the woman herself didn't know the real strength of the family and what kind of masters there were. Xiao Qiqing had been locked up in the family and used to test elixirs. Most of the information she got was from reading books, so it was inevitable that it was limited. Yang Cheng didn't dare to relax his vigilance. After all, after saving Su Xin, he still had to go to the Luo family to save Xiao Qiqing. If he angered some 1,000-year-old monster, not to mention the woman, he couldn't even protect himself. Unknowingly, they arrived at the first branch family they wanted to visit. According to seniority, the first to arrive was the 14th son of the youngest generation, who was also the 14th relative of the family head, Xiao Meng. Although it was a branch family of the Xiao family, its architecture was similar to the Xiao families, but the area was much smaller. After all, there are only about 100 people in the family. After landing, the 14th brother's family was already waiting there. The head of the family was Xiao Mahui's cousin, and he warmly welcomed them into the main hall. Whether it was true or not, they talked very well. Xiao Mahui didn't have any arrogance and looked very kind. He even asked the elders behind him to give them brocade boxes of middle-grade and low-grade elixirs. The resources of the Xiao family's branch family were naturally not as good as those of the main family. Seeing the elixirs, the eyes of the younger generation of the 14 families lit up, and they couldn't wait to snatch them. Yang Cheng listened to Xiao Mahui and the 14th brother's chatter. Most of their talk was about the cultivation of the branch family and the current situation of the older generation. In the afternoon, the group went to the martial arts practice field and watched a few groups of Xiao clan's younger generation fight. Although 14th brother's family only had over 100 people, and the Xiao family only had over 30 disciples, there were a few youths who had already reached the distant fire stage, and there was even one who had reached the Samadhi true fire stage. On the spectator stand, they watched a middle-stage distant fire Xiao clan man and a late-stage distant fire Xiao clan woman fight back and forth. Their sword techniques dazzled the eyes. Many of the sect elders who came along were full of praise. Yang Cheng felt bored to the extreme. These people were either lying through their teeth, or their level was too low. Breaking the sword technique with a shout was just a bluff. There was no killing intent at all, so how could he defend against the enemy? But thinking about it, these people in the illusory realm had not experienced any great battles. They were not like their ancestors from tens of thousands of years ago who fought against the gods. They were also not like the ancient immortals from hundreds of thousands of years ago who fought against ferocious beasts like primordial chaos. Most of these cultivators lived like princes. They only cultivated for longevity and fought for power and profit. It was normal that they did not have any killing power. 14th uncle, the younger generation will surpass the older generation. It seems that there is nothing to worry about the inheritance of your bloodline, Sorrowless Mahui said to 14th brother, who was beside him. 14th brother stroked his goatee and said humbly, "There is still a big gap between us and the geniuses of the other big brothers' families. My descendants can only guard their own land. Sigh, although our Xiao clan is the top of the 3 clans in terms of panacea resources, we have not produced any amazing geniuses in the past 100 years. That is why the Luo clan and the Ning clan have been suppressing us. Father is very worried about the competition of the three clans next year. Sorrowless Mahue was not lying. Old 14 chuckled and said, Big brother's worrying too much. These little brats in my family don't live up to expectations, but many of my brother's descendants have excellent physiques and cultivation. When the time comes, we don't have to be afraid of the young people of the Luo and Ning families. Of course, I'm not saying that Xiu Feng is not good. I see that Xiu Feng has entered the middle stage of the ethereal fire realm, and his true essence is quite stable. Maybe he can break through to the last stage of the ethereal fire realm next year. As the saying goes, good preparation is the key to success. Xiu Feng, as the eldest son of our Shao clan, should not let Big Brother down. Hearing that he was mentioned, Yang Cheng hurriedly put on an act and said humbly, The fourth brother is flattering me. Sorrowless Mahue's eyes were a little expectant. He did not know why his son looked so much more pleasing to the eye than before. Could it be that he was really sensible? Because they had to visit more than a dozen collateral clans, they could not stay in one clan for long. In the evening, the group set off again. Yang Cheng lamented for a while. This clan that had been passed down for thousands of years was really flourishing. Not counting those collateral clans that had been alienated from the core, there were actually more than a dozen branch clans. But he could not disappear halfway, so he could only endure it. Along the way, he listened to the Shao clan elders talk about all kinds of information in the illusion, so he did not gain nothing. For cultivators, time passed very quickly. After more than 10 days, Yang Cheng had followed Sorrowless Mahue to visit more than a dozen collateral clans of the Shao clan. In order to accumulate support for his son, Sorrowless Mahue spared no effort to send boxes of panaceas to support his son. Of course, this was also with Xiao Mingyu's permission. The further they went, the more masters there were. Even the masters of two clans, old men of the same generation as Xiao Mingyu, were already at the early stage of weak water. These old men were highly respected. In the future, if there were no accidents, they would be the pillars of the Elders' Union. In the future, they might even become Grand Elders. Yang Cheng felt lucky that the young people in these clans did not challenge him. The crisis that Xiao Manyan had mentioned before did not happen. This was probably also a blessing because of the panaceas. The last collateral clan, which was also the most powerful family of the Shao clan, belonged to the second granduncle of the Shao clan. Second granduncle Xiao Mengyue himself was a great master at the early stage of weak water. There were more than 1,000 disciples and cultivators under his command. He was the most powerful force in the collateral clan of the Shao clan. He was also the most prestigious person in power in the Shao clan besides Xiao Mingyu. Sorrowless Mae deliberately put an upper-grade panacea in the brocade box of panaceas to show the degree of importance. But as soon as he arrived outside the main hall of the second granduncle's clan, he saw Xiao Mengyue and a group of people talking with another group of guests in front of the hall. The leader was a middle-aged man with shoulder-length black hair, a mustache, and a rather handsome appearance. He was wearing a blue brocade gown and was talking and laughing with Xiao Mengyue. Yang Cheng felt that the man in blue was a little familiar. After thinking about it carefully, he realized that it was him. Wasn't this the Mo Zheng in Mother Wang's photo? Sorrowless Mahue? Sure enough, there was a trace of surprise and displeasure on Sorrowless Mahue's face, but it was fleeting. He laughed and stepped forward. Haha, second brother, why are you here at second granduncle's place? Did you know that I brought the elders to visit second granduncle, so you came to join the fun? Sorrowless Mahue had a scholarly look on his face. He said very elegantly, Big brother, you must be joking. I didn't know that you were going to bring people here today. I just happened to be inspecting the spiritual material production area. When I passed by here, I remembered that I haven't talked with the elders and brothers of second granduncle's clan for some time, so I brought people here to have a look. As he spoke, he even greeted Yang Chun and the others in a friendly manner. Sorrowless Maue was followed by a group of his subordinates, who were also at the crossing calamity stage. Sorrowless Mahue himself was also at the early stage of the Darkwater stage. Although he was not as good as Sorrowless Mahue, there was not much difference. Yang Chung calculated. Sorrowless Mahoe and Mother Wang gave birth to Xiao Qi-Ching, and it had only been 20 years since then. To be able to reach the early stage of the Darkwater stage, he could be considered to have an extraordinary aptitude. Just based on the first impression, Sorrowless Mahoe was much better than Sorrowless Mahoe, who was sinister and arrogant. No wonder Mother Wang fell for him so easily. However, Yang Chung knew how he was like a father, so he only had hatred for Sorrowless Mahoe, his cheap father-in-law. Second brother really knows how to take a break from the busy. Sorrowless Mahoe smiled coldly, turned to face second granduncle, and said with some flattery, "Nephew Mahoe has brought people to see second granduncle. Second granduncle, here are some elixirs. It is a little gift from father and me." Xiao Minghua looked like he was in his 50s. He took the brocade box with a fake smile. "Mahoe is very kind. How is big brother recently?" "Father has been in closed-door training recently in preparation for next year's martial art competition of the three families. Otherwise, he would have liked to come and chat with second granduncle," Sorrowless Mahoe said. Xiao Minghua nodded and suddenly looked at Yang Chung. "You also mentioned that next year is the important martial arts competition of the three families. This matter concerns the face of our Xiao family, and even more so, it concerns the interests of the demonic eye. Why do I see that your son, Qiu Feng, is only at the middle stage of the fire realm? With this little bit of cultivation, he should be cultivating at home. You bring him everywhere for us old brothers to see. Are you in a hurry to suggest that big brother change the heir of the family?" Chapter 1494. Sorrowless' face turned pale, and he was a little surprised. He had brought a group of elders here, but Xiao Minghua had started to mock Xiao Qiufeng before they had even served tea. Logically speaking, even if Xiao Minghua had such thoughts, he should have suppressed Xiao Qiufeng for the sake of Xiao Mingyu. After all, Xiao Qiufeng was still young, and if he hadn't made great progress after he was 50, he could have asked other clansmen to replace him. For a moment, Sorrowless' mouth trembled with embarrassment, and his face turned red. He didn't know what to say, but Xiao Majing, who was next to him, comforted him. "Second uncle, Qiufeng is still young, and it's true that he's a little slow to reach the middle stage of Ignis realm, but cultivation doesn't mean everything." Sorrowless looked at his brother in surprise. He didn't expect that Xiao Majing would speak for him, but he still said, "Yes, second uncle, don't be impatient. When I go back, I will definitely make Qiufeng practice hard." Xiao Minghua snorted softly and pointed to a group of young descendants of the Xiao clan behind him. "Look at these descendants of mine. There are 5 who have entered the 3-yang real fire stage before the age of 50, 1 who has entered the karmic fire stage, and 2 of them who have entered the Kuei water stage. Don't tell me that the resources your son possesses are inferior to those of my descendants. Don't you think it's a disgrace to the Xiao clan? Second great uncle, I know you are a man of virtue and prestige. My son doesn't live up to your expectations, but please be patient. I believe Qiu Feng won't let you down," Sorrowless Moe said reluctantly. Xiao Minghua said disdainfully, "We've given it to this kid for at least 30 years. Even if his cultivation isn't good, he should at least have something outstanding to reassure us old fellows. Don't tell me that you can change the current situation of our Xiao clan being weak with empty words. It's fine if you didn't come today, but now that you have come, I see that he hasn't made any progress. For the sake of the Xiao clan, it seems that I have to go with the other brothers to talk to my eldest brother about whether he should be replaced by a collateral descendant." Hearing this, Sorrowless' face turned livid, but he couldn't refute it. In fact, if Xiao Qiufeng hadn't failed to live up to his expectations, he wouldn't have had to lower himself to visit them one by one and give them so many elixirs. However, no matter how hard they tried, they still couldn't stop the collateral family from interfering. Yang Chung, on the other hand, was depressed. What kind of mess did this Xiao Qiufeng leave behind? When I impersonate him, I actually just happened to run into the collateral branch of the Xiao family, preparing to make trouble. I hope it doesn't affect my plan to save Su Xian." At this moment, Xiao Majing suddenly interrupted second granduncle Although Qiu Feng's cultivation level is not high, his aptitude is definitely not bad. He might have been too playful in the past. Qiu Feng has been using a sword since he was a child. I think his swordsmanship is not bad. Why don't you send a young disciple to compete with Qiu Feng? If Qiu Feng can win purely with swordsmanship, then we can give Qiu Feng a chance. What do you think? Second brother, sorrowful Mahui, was anxious. A sword competition? Although Xiao Qiu Feng was a swordsman, he was lazy in his cultivation. How could his swordsmanship be any better? Sorrowless comforted him helplessly. Big brother, we can't do anything about it. Second uncle doesn't believe in Qiu Feng's aptitude, so we have to prove it to him. Qiu Feng's cultivation level is not as good as any of the disciples here. Apart from swordsmanship, there's nothing else we can do. Sorrowless Mahui's face turned red and white. He was choked and couldn't say anything. Yang Chun, on the other hand, wondered what Sorrowless was planning. Even an idiot could guess that if he was really Xiao Qiu Feng, then anyone here would lose. What kind of aptitude did Xiao Qiu Feng have? Logically speaking, Sorrowless was Sorrowless Mahui's younger brother. If Xiao Qiu Feng lost, it would discredit Sorrowless Mahui and increase the pressure on Xiao Mingyu. It wouldn't be good for Sorrowless, would it? Yang Cheng couldn't figure it out, so he could only give up for the time being. Xiao Mingyu's slightly wrinkled face showed a trace of suppressed impatience. Well, since Ma Jing is pleading for your nephew, I'll see how good this boy's swordsmanship is. Swordsmen are the ancestors of all weapons. Among the immortals in the primeval age, only the sword immortals were peerless. The aptitude of a cultivator who can use good swordsmanship is certainly not bad, so I can test it out. Then, Xiao Mingyu stretched out his hand and pointed to a disciple of the Xiao family who was closer to him. This young man looked very young, with fair skin, thin lips, and handsome eyebrows. He had short hair and was carrying a flying sword on his back. This is my third son, Xiao Yangshu. He is 5 years younger than Qiu Feng this year, but he has already reached the early stage of Kuei water. He is the most outstanding one among my descendants and is good at using swordsmanship. Let him compete with Qiu Feng. Xiao Mingyu said. Second uncle, Yangshu is at the early stage of Kuei water. It's not appropriate to fight against Qiu Feng, who is only at the middle stage of Li Fire. Sorrowless said, it doesn't matter. I will control my true inner force at the middle stage of Li Fire. I will never hurt Brother Qiu Feng. Xiao Yangshu's mouth showed a cold smile. Sorrowless frowned. This young man was like a sharp arrow that hadn't been unsheathed. His whole body was filled with sword chi. Obviously, he was a genius swordsman. Compared to this kind of person, his son was indeed like a pile of dog shit. However, he only had one son. If he was defeated, the inheritance of his line would be in big trouble. There was no retreat. What should he do? Brother, Qiu Feng will face this sooner or later. You should let Qiu Feng go. Sorrowless patted his brother's shoulder. In Yang Cheng's view, this scene was undoubtedly pretentious. Wasn't it because of Sorrowless that they came to this point? If Yang Cheng believed that Sorrowless came here by chance to visit, he would not believe it even if he was beaten to death. Since Qiu Feng is going to be the head of the family in the future, he naturally needs to have the ability to suppress the heroes. Just like you, brother, you have always been a level higher than us brothers, so we are convinced. I don't expect Qiu Feng to surpass my descendants in a short time. As long as he can withstand 10 moves from my Yang Su with the same cultivation level, I won't mention anything about replacing him. Xiao Mingyu said proudly. Sorrowless was helpless. If he retreated now, then Xiao Qiu Feng would not be qualified to be the head of the family in the future. 10 moves. I hope he is lucky, and this boy can withstand it. Sorrowless patted Yang Cheng's shoulder and said, Qiu Feng, concentrate. Don't be nervous and fight with Yang Su. Yang Cheng imitated Xiao Qiu Feng's cowardly look vividly and said with a bitter face, Father, this. Yang Su is at the water phase, bastard. You know that his cultivation is higher than yours, but you still don't practice. He will suppress it to the middle stage of the fire phase. What are you afraid of? Just use your sword skills to fight. Sorrowless was so angry that he wanted to slap his son. A group of Xiao family's second uncle's family members also looked at him with contempt. Sorrowless Zheng and Xiao Mingyuo looked at each other, and there was a subtle smile in their eyes. Today, many elders of the family are also here. Yang Su, you can't go easy on him. Qiu Feng, you also go all out. I think the elders will treat you fairly. Xiao Mingyue said loudly. A group of elders who came with Sorrowless naturally agreed one by one. In fact, they also knew that Xiao Qiufeng had almost no chance to take over the position of the head of the family, but they didn't expect that someone would make trouble so soon. Brother Qiufeng, please. Xiao Yangsu's eyes were full of contempt, and his movement was very respectful. Yang Cheng pretended to be very scared, and imitated the role of Xiao Qiufeng deeply. He was secretly happy that acting was really an art. Everyone saw Xiao Qiufeng walk on the martial arts field, and they all shook their heads and sighed. Xiao Yangsu held his head high, and a long Qiu Hong sword on his back flew out with a swoosh sound. The sword light shone in the air, and the sword qi rolled up, showing off its sharpness. Brother Qiufeng, my flying kite is only a middle-grade flying sword, only sharp and fast. I heard that you have a high-grade flying sword, with spirit, which can gather with spiritual qi and can attack and defend. Please use your sword and let me see. Xiao Yang Su shouted these words, which was tantamount to telling everyone that he not only lowered his cultivation, but also that his flying sword was not as good as Yang Cheng's. Only then did Yang Chun find out that the sword was called with spirit. He hadn't used it before, but it didn't matter. He took it out from the space ring and pretended to put up a few stances, waving it around like a Tai Chi sword. In fact, it was just to confuse the crowd and looked nondescript. What sword skill is this? Is he going to use a flying sword to fight with Yang Su's imperial sword technique? Some people murmured, and some people were already holding back their laughter, ready to see the young master of the Xiao family make a fool of himself. Chapter 1495. Sorcerer Mahue observed that the people around him were waiting for a good show. He frowned, and his face darkened as he watched the fight nervously. Brother Qiufeng, please. Xiao Yangshu suppressed his cultivation to the middle stage of the ethereal fire realm and poured his true inner force into his flying kite sword, which flashed with a faint green light. The flying sword abruptly left his hand and flew towards Yang Chun with a spiral ripple. With bursts of sword light and green shadows, it formed a horizontal tornado, as if it wanted to mince Yang Chun into pieces in an instant. Yang Chun took a few steps back and flew into the air to avoid it. This is the Thousand Snow Cloud Sword. What a good move, cloud-breaking style. I didn't expect Yang Su to be so familiar with this high-level sword technique. Immediately, an elder who knew the sword manual exclaimed. The sword techniques of the cultivation world were often evolved into the imperial sword technique to display greater power. Many sword techniques were powerful and were high-level sword techniques, but because of the complexity of the moves and the chaotic circulation of true inner force, it was difficult to practice and master. Therefore, cultivators who used swords would choose a suitable sword technique to practice, rather than blindly pursuing a high-level imperial sword technique. Of course, Xiao Yangshu was obviously a sword genius. At such a young age, he had already used the Thousand Snow Cloud sword technique passed down by the Xiao family's ancestors. The cloud-breaking style was dodged by Yang Cheng, and Xiao Yangshu smiled disdainfully. He was already prepared. He soared into the air, and the flying kite followed him like a shadow from below. Snow rolling style, Xiao Yangshu shouted. The flying sword condensed waves of snowflake-like sword energy, lingering in the surroundings, like a snowstorm caused by the snow. Its speed was much faster than Yang Chen's movement, and it could swallow Yang Chen in an instant. Obviously, with his cultivation of the middle stage of the ethereal fire realm, he couldn't avoid this move. Yang Cheng stood upside down, and the wood spear in his hand gathered with spirit qi and weaved it into a net. He flew back into the sky and blocked the sword energy storm. Amidst a series of explosions, although Yang Cheng was in a bit of a sorry state, he was still able to dodge, but he was not defeated. Sigh, If Yang Su hadn't controlled his cultivation to be at the middle stage of distant fire, the power of this move would have been at least 2 times stronger. Xiaofeng definitely wouldn't have been able to block it. Yang Su is truly a promising young man. Another elder began to discuss. Hearing these people's words, sorrowless Ma Huai coldly harumphed. His palms were sweaty, and he hoped that Xiao Qiufeng could endure it. However, this was only the second move, and he was already in such a sorry state. Could he withstand the next 8 moves? Xiao Yangshu seemed to be very dissatisfied with the fact that he couldn't finish off Yangcheng with 2 moves. His face became a bit more serious, and the Fei Yuan sword continued to thrust in all directions with irresistible force. The continuous attacks formed a dense net of blades. It was as if hundreds of swordsmen were attacking Yang Cheng at the same time. Yang Cheng cried out in fright. He held the wood spiritual sword in his hand, as if he was in a panic to block the attacks. However, every sword shadow was cleverly resolved by Yang Cheng. What a joke. Yang Cheng didn't know any sword techniques, but how could his fighting instincts be compared to those flowery but impractical young cultivators in the illusion world? Although these swords came fast, they couldn't escape Yang Cheng's senses. He just very naturally used his fighting instincts to block the swords back. When Xiao Yangshu made the 5th move, he found that something was wrong. Although he had been suppressing his opponent, he clearly didn't have any real advantage. His opponent's swordsmanship was not organized at all, but he was able to block his attacks at the critical moment. Under the same cultivation, it was very difficult to use sword chi or true essence to suppress his opponent. He could only rely on the subtlety of his swordsmanship to defeat his opponent. However, it seemed that it wasn't as easy as he thought. Many elders below also felt that it was extremely strange. Xiao Mengyue and Xiao Majing also didn't quite understand. They looked at each other and seemed to be a little surprised. While Xiao Mahuai was frightened, he also had great hope. His face was full of excitement, and he looked forward to his son miraculously withstanding these 10 moves. Big Brother Qiufeng has sharp eyes and quick hands. I don't know if he can block the next move. Cloud-splitting flying snow. Xiao Yangshu saw that it was already the 7th move, and there were only 3 moves left. He immediately used one of the strongest moves of the 1,000 Snow and Cloud swordsmanship. Flying snow, splitting sea of clouds. Watch my sword. A sharp glint appeared in Xiao Yangshu's eyes. He was completely serious. The flying kite drew a sword ripple in front of him. The sword chi was like countless clouds. Waves rolled up and the clouds surged, but they were all condensed from the powerful sword chi that showed off its sharpness. Like a huge light green cloud, it shrouded Yang Cheng. It was an unavoidable large-scale killing move. Seeing this, the people below were a little surprised. They didn't expect that Xiao Yangshu would be forced to use such a big move. Xiao Mahuai was burning with anxiety. How could his son block it now? He was about to rush up to save Yang Cheng. But Xiao Mengyue, who was beside him, held Xiao Mahuai down and said solemnly, "It's not 10 moves yet." Xiao Mahuai was furious. This old man obviously wanted his son to accidentally die in the battle. It was so hateful, but he was no match for Xiao Mengyue, who was at the early stage of weak water. He could only suppress his anger and watch the battle in the sky. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. Yang Chan sighed in his heart when he saw a sea of clouds formed by sword energy engulfing him. He had no choice but to reveal a small trick. Originally, he planned to play dumb to deceive them. The wood spiritual sword in his hand left his hand for the first time. In front of him, it formed a circle of sword shadows. These sword shadows condensed into sword chi, one after another, continuous. When the chain of sword shadows surrounded Yang Chun like a golden ring, the cloud of sword aura swallowed him up at the same time. Boom! A violent rumble resounded, and the clouds and mist were actually mysteriously rotated and wiped away. Piece by piece, they dispersed like flowers scattered by a celestial maiden, and it was dazzling and resplendent. This is... A few exclamations came from below. It was incredible. Am I seeing things? This seems to be the 18 swords of Lianyan? No, It seems to be, but it doesn't seem to be. The 18 Swords of Lianyun is just a low-level imperial sword technique, and there doesn't seem to be this move in it. But Xiao Mingyue looked dignified and said, "This is the 18 Swords of Lianyun, the 13th move in it, 8 zigzag chain. But there seems to be some changes. Yes, the autumn wind is more direct and neat, very ingenious." Xiao Mahui said with a forced smile. Xiao Mahui laughed, extremely proud of himself. Although he didn't know when his son had practiced such a sword technique, he thought it was secretly practiced and didn't suspect much. In the air, Xiao Yangshu saw that his killing move was broken, and he was shocked and angry. He only had 2 moves left to use, and in his anger, he attacked Yang Cheng fiercely. But Yang Cheng used the wood spirit sword to find Xiao Yangshu's flaws and easily dissolve them without leaving a trace. Xiao Yangshu, after all, lacked combat experience. Although his sword technique was brilliant, the person who used it didn't understand the principle of no move is better than having a move. The way of the sword was the same as the way of martial arts. The sword is the sword, and the person is the person. It was still at the rudimentary stage, and then there was the sword is not the sword, and the person is not the person. When the person and the sword became one, he was considered an expert in the way of the sword. The more profound, the sword is the sword, and the person is the person. It was the so-called, without the sword in the hand, there is no sword in the heart. The sword had become a dispensable tool, and it was no longer a sword technique, but a kind of way. Yang Cheng had countless battles on the line of life and death. He had already broken away from the shackles and comprehended his own unique view of the battle. Whether it was martial arts or sword techniques, he had his own views, and he could adapt to the situation, and his wonderful moves were endless. This was why Yang Cheng could gather the strengths of hundreds of schools to write cultivation methods for women, and he could also easily modify the sword technique to upgrade several levels for his own use. If their cultivations were equal, Yang Cheng didn't think he would be afraid of any opponent. Even if he couldn't win, he wouldn't lose, unless the opponent had a stronger magic weapon or other bargaining chip. Unknowingly, 10 moves had passed. When Xiao Yangshu wanted to make another move, Xiao Mingyue, who was on the ground, made the first move. A vigorous green wood true essence rose from the ground and cut off the connection between the flying kite and Xiao Yangshu. "Yangshu, still don't stop." Xiao Mingyue shouted angrily, quite dissatisfied with his grandson. But there was no other way. With so many people watching, he couldn't go back on his words. He could only blame Xiao Qiufeng for being too strange. It couldn't be seen how brilliant his sword technique was. He could only think that maybe some of his potential broke out in a crisis. Xiao Yangshu's eyes flashed with hatred, but he tried to suppress it. He cupped his hands toward Yang Cheng and said, "I have offended you. Brother Qiufeng's sword technique is brilliant, and I admire it." Chapter 1496. Yang Chun pretended to be complacent as if it wasn't a big deal, which suited Xiao Qiufeng's cockiness. Laughing, he patted Xiao Yangshu's shoulder. "We're brothers. Why would I blame you, Brother Yangshu?" Everyone on the ground felt a chill. They didn't think that Xiao Qiufeng could really defeat Xiao Yangshu. Not to mention that Xiao Yangshu had suppressed his cultivation. He had been suppressing his opponent. It was just that 10 moves were too short, and Xiao Yangshu had underestimated his opponent. "Second uncle, how was it? My Qiufeng didn't let you down, right?" Sarlis asked loudly with confidence. Xiao Mingyue said in a low voice, "He's a little clever, but his cultivation is still too low. If he doesn't make great progress in the future, I'll still ask my brother for an explanation. Of course, when we go back, I'll definitely ask this little bastard to practice hard." Sarlis said. The matter of removing the eldest grandson from the family seemed to have been temporarily suppressed. Although there was a turbulent undercurrent, Xiao Mingyue wouldn't say anything in the short term. After all, he still had to maintain the stability and harmony of the family. Xiao Mingyue then invited Sarlis and the others into the inner hall to entertain them with a banquet. Sarlis and the others also followed into the hall and drank to their heart's content. The atmosphere just now was not the slightest bit tense. After the banquet, everyone began to talk about a lot of topics. Yang Chen didn't have the intention to interrupt. The more he spoke, the more mistakes he would make. He drank the wine in boredom. This wine was really boring. It seemed to be brewed with some spiritual fruits from the illusion. Although it had the effect of replenishing energy, Yang Chun felt that it was meaningless with the density of spiritual energy in the illusion. All of a sudden, Xiao Mingyue's words made Yang Chun tense up. "Mahue, I heard that the Luo family has captured Xiao Qiqing. Is it true?" Yang Chun immediately concentrated. He didn't expect to hear news about Xiao Qiqing. Sorrowless Mahue paused and glanced at the calm, sorrowless Mahjong with a mocking look, saying, "That's the news. It's true. I don't know how he found out about that slut's whereabouts, but Luo Qinqiu sent Luo hang out to capture her. That's good. The Luo clan has been using this marriage as an excuse to harass our Shao clan. Twice, when they met our disciples in the Flying Snow Mountain Range, they fought over this matter. They said that our Shao clan is untrustworthy and took the betrothal gifts for free, causing our disciples to not dare to act rashly. They've gone too far." Xiao Mingyue snorted coldly. "Sigh, second great uncle, I didn't expect this bitch to have such guts." Sorrowless looked at Sorrowless Zheng and said, "Second brother, you didn't teach your daughter well. Although she was born from a wild woman in the secular world, she still has the blood of the Shao clan flowing in her veins. If all the children were as unreasonable as her and dared to disobey the orders of the clan, wouldn't our Shao clan be in a mess?" Sorrowless raised his head and didn't show any anger. Instead, he nodded humbly and said with a smile, "Elder brother is right. It's a pity that the evil girl is no longer at home. Otherwise, I'd definitely teach her a lesson. Because of her, we've lost count of how many times we've been humiliated in front of the Luo clan. The Luo clan has always been stronger than us, and we've even suffered a loss in reasoning. Do you know how angry father was because of this? If it wasn't for me, your elder brother, who helped you suppress it, you'd have been grounded long ago." Sorrowless seemed to vent his anger on Sorrowless Mahjong because of what had just happened. Sorrowless Mahjong didn't refute and kept nodding. In the end, Sorrowless Mahjong was satisfied and didn't forget to put on an act of self-blame and said, "It's also because I trusted your brother too much. I thought that you would be able to do your daughter's job well. So I suggested to father to let her marry Luo Hang of the Luo clan. But I didn't expect that although she looks soft and weak, she has the wild nature of a common woman. I'm afraid she took after her mother." Xiao Mingwen interrupted at this time. "Mahjong, don't blame Mahjong. Although the evil girl Xiao Qiqing has brought a lot of trouble to our Shao clan, her 90 meridians have helped us test no less than 100 kinds of poisonous pills. We didn't raise her for nothing. Second uncle is right. It's a pity that she'll have to be used by the Luo clan in the future. Now that I think about it, it's really a loss to give such a high-quality medicine testing tool to the Luo clan. We should have asked for more betrothal gifts from the Luo clan." Sorrowless Mahjong said regretfully, "Haha, uncle, you're bullying the Luo clan too much. That bitch Xiao Qiqing, although useful for medicine testing, her 90 meridians are getting deeper and deeper. She won't be able to live for many years. Rather than letting her die in the family for a few years, it's better to give her to the Luo family while she's still alive. She could be exchanged for a batch of magic weapons and panaceas, which would be more profitable for us. This is a good deal that Sir has instigated." An elder flattered. Sorrowless Mahjong was very happy and repeatedly waved his hand to express that he was flattered, but he didn't hide his pride. When Yang Chung heard these words, he almost smashed the table in front of him with his hand. He tried hard to restrain himself. So this was the Shao clan's plan. No wonder they were willing to give Xiao Qiqing to the Luo clan. Indeed, if he hadn't met him, Xiao Qiqing would have been poisoned abroad and would have died when he thought about how Sorrowless Mahjong and the others had planned all of this, and how Sorrowless Mahjong, his biological father, had turned a blind eye to it and even wanted to teach Xiao Qiqing a lesson. Yang Chung felt a surge of anger. He wanted to kill all the Shao clan's disciples at the scene. However, his rationality made him endure it. There was still a long way to go. Once he rescued the woman, he He would let them have a taste of what it was like to not be treated as a human. After leaving second granduncle's clan, he finally completed the inspection of the collateral families and returned to the Shao clan. Sorrowless Mahjong continued to lead people to scout for elixirs and didn't go with them. As soon as he returned home, Yang Cheng was called to his room by Sorrowless Mahjong. Sorrowless Mahjong seemed to have a heavy heart, and his expression was very ugly. Qiu Feng, I don't know how you cultivate, but I'm very pleased to see your progress today. However, your speed is still too slow. You must work much harder in the future. At least, you must reach the final phase of the Divine Fire Realm before the martial arts competition of the 3 clans next year. Do you understand? Yang Cheng thought to himself, as you wish. I'm going to leave here soon anyway. So he obediently nodded. Sorrowless Mahjong's face was gloomy. Your second uncle finally couldn't stand it anymore. I didn't expect that he would collude with second granduncle, that old fox. It's a pity that your grandfather has been on guard against him. He thinks that we don't know about their sneaky business. Hearing this, Yang Cheng pretended to be puzzled and asked, Father, did they do something before? Sorrowless Mahjong looked at him with satisfaction and sighed. I originally thought that you only knew how to play with those women. Today, I see that you are not ignorant and incompetent. You know how to endure. You are finally mature. There is no harm in telling you. Actually, your second uncle has been in contact with second granduncle in private. He often sends some spiritual materials to their clan and secretly refines elixirs. Your grandfather just turns a blind eye to these things. He doesn't want to make the contradiction clear. It's just that we don't know how they colluded. Moreover, there are many talented disciples in second granduncle's clan. If we rashly punish them, I'm afraid that it will affect the clan's strength. Yang Cheng thought that Xiao Mingyu could really endure. His own son betrayed him, but he could still watch in the dark without stopping him. Father, isn't this helping their strength? What if they attack us? Yang Cheng pretended to be afraid. What are you afraid of? Sorrowless Mahjong sneered. No matter how powerful Xiao Mingyu is, he is not as good as your grandfather. Your grandfather has already reached the middle phase of the weak water realm and may enter the late phase of the weak water realm at any time. That's why he has been in seclusion recently to seek a breakthrough. What's more, we have the support of Su Xiaogong of the Su family. With the Su family on our side, the other collateral relatives will also act according to our mood. When you're 50 years old, even if you are in the Samadhi true fire stage, you may still be able to stand firm. Moreover, you still have me. They can't stop me from inheriting the clan. Yang Cheng thought that the Su family should stand on Sorrowless Mahjong's side. Su Yanan was the second wife. Could it be that there was something hidden? Thinking of the affair between Xiao Manyin and Xiao Qiufeng, Yang Cheng suddenly thought of something. He secretly muttered in his heart, this family is really messy. When he came out of Sorrowless Mahjong's room, Yang Cheng thought for a moment and went straight to where the Zhao siblings were. It wasn't that he wanted to say goodbye to them. Instead, he thought that if he left, they might not be able to get the high-grade elixir. So, he might as well use Xiao Qiufeng's identity to give them one. In the past half a month, Zhao Muyang and Zhao Ting had been shocked and worried about Xiao Chen's disappearance. Lan Fei had also looked for them twice, but they didn't understand why a living person had disappeared. After Lan Fei and Zhao Muyang sparred, they became good friends. Both of them had good characters, and it was easy to find a bosom friend. When Yang Cheng arrived at the Zhao siblings' residence, he just happened to see Lan Fei and Zhao Muyang sparring. They were fighting back and forth. Of course, Zhao Muyang had suppressed his cultivation. When they saw Xiao Qiufeng, the three of them immediately came to greet him. They were a little nervous, feeling that it was definitely not something good. Yang Cheng didn't waste any time and prepared 2 sets of elixirs. There was 1 high-grade elixir, 3 middle-grade elixir, and more than 10 low-grade elixir each. They were all parting gifts for these friends he had met by chance. When he gave these elixirs, which were nothing to Yang Cheng, to the 3 of them, Lan Fei and the Zhao siblings were scared silly. Chapter 1497. Yang Cheng pretended to be Xiao Qiufeng and warned, I see that you have potential. That's why I'm giving you these. Don't hide it from my father and grandfather. You have to keep a secret. As the saying goes, treasuring a jade ring becomes a crime. Don't expose yourself and get yourself killed. When the three of them heard that it was really for them, they couldn't help but tear up. This was too important to them. With these spirit pills, Lan Fei and Zhao Muyang were confident that they could break through many obstacles in a short period of time. This was a treatment that only the most talented young cultivators of the big families could have. When Yang Chen was about to leave, Lan Fei seized the opportunity to ask, "Young master, do you know where Brother Xiao Chun, who just joined the Xiao clan, went? He seemed to have disappeared for the past half a month. Muyang and I are very worried." Yang Cheng felt guilty. He didn't expect to cause them trouble. It was rare for cultivators to be so concerned about a friend who wasn't related to them. The difference between them and sorrowless regret and sorrowless fight was like the difference between clouds and mud. But Yang Cheng couldn't tell the truth, so he said impatiently, "How would I know such a small thing? Maybe you went outside to cultivate. Do we have to watch each and every one of us? You better take care of yourselves. Don't let these spirit pills down." "Yes, don't worry, young master. We will be loyal to you and the Xiao family," Zhao Miyang said quickly. Following that, the three of them seriously said a lot of things like, "Young master's kindness will never be forgotten." Yang Cheng couldn't bear to listen to them anymore. After that, he flew to the Azure of the Arch Pagoda. Xiao Tingsu, who was guarding the Azure of the Arch Pagoda, didn't notice anything strange about this Xiao Xiofeng. This made Yang Cheng heave a sigh of relief. As expected, this young master of the Xiao family entered unimpeded. He used a method to remove the restrictions and flew all the way to the top of the Azure of the Arch Pagoda without arousing anyone's suspicions. Yang Cheng also discovered that the upper levels of the Azure Emperor Pagoda were stocked with many spirit materials. Although most of them were ordinary spirit medicines, there were some that Yang Cheng thought were quite good. He wondered if he should rob them before leaving the Xiao family. However, because almost every floor was guarded by an elder from the Xiao clan's elder council, he didn't know if there were any prerequisites, so it was better to take care of Su Xian's matter first. They went all the way to the top few floors and finally saw the prison that they had only heard of before. It had to be said that the creator of the Lotus Emperor's Pagoda had really built this huge pagoda with uncanny craftsmanship. The 3 levels of the prison at the top of the pagoda were actually all created with formations to create a world of ice and snow. This was real ice and snow, a pure white, with sharp icicles everywhere. Cold air continuously converged into the tower from all directions, causing the temperature to drop to a frightening -100 degrees Celsius. If it weren't for the fact that cultivators could use their true essence to dissolve the ice and maintain their life functions, it wouldn't take long for an ordinary human to completely turn into an ice sculpture. Every level was made of special black gold meteoric iron. Cultivators below the Tribulation Transcendent stage couldn't use their true essence to forcefully break through. With his divine sense, Yang Cheng quickly sensed Su Xian, who was in an ice-cold prison. That was because she was the only prisoner in the Azure Emperor's Pagoda at the moment. His figure flashed, and Yang Cheng appeared outside an ice prison. Inside the prison, a middle-aged woman with messy hair and a tattered green dress was cowering in the corner of the wall. "Su Xian," Yang Cheng shouted. The woman raised her head, revealing a beautiful face. Although her face was pale and her lips were a little purple, it was undeniable that if she dressed up well, she would be a very beautiful middle-aged woman. Her figure was not the slightest bit inferior to Su Yanen's second wife. Su Xian's eyes were full of undisguised hatred. She glanced at Yang Cheng, then buried her head and ignored him again. Yang Cheng was stunned at first, but then he remembered that he was Xiao Qiufeng. He sighed in his heart. Looking at her, he knew that Xiao Qiufeng had done a lot of crazy things to her. It was probably because of Xiao Qiufeng that she was in such a ragged state. "Su Xian, I'm not Xiao Qiufeng. Look." Yang Cheng recovered his voice, removing the effect of being blinded by a leaf. Su Xian felt a little strange. She looked up and was suddenly stunned, speechless. Who are you?" Yang Cheng was sure that no one would notice the situation here. Smiling casually, he said, "I'm Yang Cheng, Qinger's man. I know you're Qing, or his nanny. You were the one who helped her escape from the illusion. Now, it's my turn to save you from here. Qing, it's Miss Jiqing. Su Xian's eyes were filled with excitement. She rushed to the bars of the prison and asked anxiously, "How is Miss Jiqing? Is she well? Are you really her man?" Yang Cheng was touched. In this situation, Su Xian was still worried about Xiao Qiqing. Thinking about sorrowless biological father, Yang Cheng's fists clenched tightly. "Don't be too excited. I'll tell you in detail." Yang Cheng glanced at the black gold mystical iron bars and activated a ball of samadhi true fire, burning a huge hole in the prison in the blink of an eye. Su Xian looked at this scene in shock. This is samadhi true fire? How is this possible? What level of magic is this? It can actually use samadhi true fire? She was also a woman who grew up in the illusion. She was at the early stage of soul formation and had a certain level of knowledge. Yang Cheng smiled. This was not the first time he saw a cultivator so shocked. Walking into the ice prison, he waved his hand and released Nanming leaf fire to evaporate all the ice and snow. The temperature suddenly became incomparably warm. Seeing that Su Xian's expression was a little better, Yang Cheng explained the situation clearly. In the middle, Su Xian kept asking about Xiao Qiqing's situation. When she heard that Xiao Qiqing had fallen into the hands of the Luo family, Su Xian's face was filled with worry. "This matter, I have a lot of responsibility. If you want to blame me, I have nothing to say. But don't worry, I will definitely save Qing Er." Su Xian shook her head and said, "You can come to the illusion alone, which means that Miss did not choose the wrong person. You are a man worthy of being entrusted. Although I, Su Xian, was born as a lowly servant of the Shao family, I know what's good for me. I'm already deeply grateful that you came here to save me. How can I blame you? What's more, the Luo family has so many experts and so many old monsters. You're still willing to save the young Mississippi. As a woman, I admire you very much. Yang, if you don't mind, I will call you young Master Yang. I don't think you need to save me. Since Xiao Qiufeng is already dead, I won't be in too much trouble here. It's just a little cold. If you save me, where should you take me? I'm just a burden. If Grandma finds something suspicious when we go out and stops us, it will be very bad." Yang Cheng rejected her. "You don't need to think about it. If I can't even save you, then how can I save Qing Er?" "This," Su Xian frowned and said, "it's still too dangerous. Back then, Xiao Qiufeng, that bastard, imprisoned me here with the permission of the family head. Without the family head's permission, the granny outside wouldn't let me go. If Grandma wants to stop me, I am afraid that a large number of the Shao family's experts will immediately move out. At that time, I will only be able to bring you into the trap." Yang Cheng was startled. "I can't take you out even if I become Xiao Qiufeng." "You can't." Su Xian shook her head with certainty. "The hidden families have strict rules, especially the three big families. Even the main sect has to follow the rules. Otherwise, wouldn't it be a mess for thousands of years?" Yang Cheng frowned deeply. This was troublesome. He had not even seen Xiao Mingyu. How could he get the order to take Su Xian out of the tower? Su Xian saw Yang Cheng's troubled expression and smiled with relief. "Young Master Yang, you don't have to worry too much. In fact, Su Xian is satisfied that you can come here. Saving Miss Jiqing is more important. After I was brought here by that beast, Xiao Qiufeng, I never thought of leaving. He would come to the prison and humiliate me from time to time, just because his cultivation was higher than mine. I was already a broken flower, and my body was filthy beyond belief. If I was not worried about Miss Jiqing's situation, I would not be able to live until today. Today, I heard from young Master Yang that Miss Jiqing is still alive and that there is someone who treats her well. Su Xian can die in peace." Yang Cheng's heart was touched. Su Xian's feelings for Xiao Qiqing were probably no less than her own mother, Mother Wang. Sure enough, Xiao Qiqing was right several times. The only person in the Shao family who treated her well was this wet nurse who brought her up. Chapter 1498. He didn't know how much pain Su Xian had endured. Being treated like a plaything by Xiao Qiufeng, it must have been worse than death. However, Yang Chung didn't think she was as dirty as the woman said. Just like many women who sold their bodies to feed their families, Su Xin didn't want to go through all this. There was nothing to look down on. Instead, Yang Chung respected her. Thinking of this, Yang Chung made up his mind. He would take the risk. Many calculations flashed through his eyes. Yang Chung looked up and asked, Su Xin, you have experience taking Jiqing away from here. You should know which direction is the fastest way to leave the illusion, right? Su Xin nodded. Yes, I can tell you if you want to know. Let me ask you again. If I take the spirit herbs in the lower levels of the pagoda as Shao Qiufeng, will the elders care about me? Su Xin was even more confused. The spirit herbs are for the elders who are good at alchemy. If you want to take them, I'm afraid it will be difficult. But as long as you don't take too many, it shouldn't be a problem. Then what if I take a lot? Yang Cheng's eyes shone with evil light. Su Xin felt that something was wrong and asked nervously, Young Master Yang, could it be that you want to steal those spirit materials? Not to mention that the lowest cultivation level of these elders was at the distant fire stage. There were about 10 at the dark water stage who guarded the pagoda for a long time. There were no less than 40 tribulation stage cultivators and a large number of soul formation stage cultivators in the pagoda. It should be known that Grandma was guarding outside. You should leave quickly. Saving Miss is more important. No one knows how to make pills if you take these things. They're just some herbs to increase spirit chi. Who says I don't know how to make pills? I do. Yang Chung chuckled. It's not my style to leave a mountain of treasure untouched. Anyway, I don't plan on returning to the Shao family after saving you. I might as well do something big. Su Xin couldn't help but open her mouth and look at Yang Chung in shock. She wondered if she had heard wrong. However, Yang Chung did not seem to be joking at all. He asked, Su Xin, are you familiar with the Azure Thearchus Pagoda? If I were to fight with those crossing tribulation stage cultivators here, wouldn't it be easy for Grandma to find out? I can't guarantee anything. The Azure Emperor Pagoda is protected by an array formation. It's for the sake of alchemy, so the spiritual chi and true inner force won't leak out easily. So, generally speaking, unless the Azure Emperor Pagoda is destroyed, it's very difficult to detect any vibrations from the inside, Su Xin said. Yang Chung narrowed his eyes. Without saying a word, he took out a set of women's clothes from his spatial ring and gave it to Su Xin. Put on. Although you're my elder in terms of seniority, it's not appropriate for you to stand in front of me with so much flesh exposed. The 2 lumps of Su Xion's breasts and the strands of black grass below could not be covered by the ragged clothes at all. Yang Chung tried his best not to look too much. This set of clothes was bought by Lin Ruoshi when they were in Korea. Because women were extravagant and did not treat money as money, she bought a lot of clothes and left some in Yang Cheng's spatial ring. He didn't expect it to come in handy. Su Xin compared the cartoon short sleeves and cute short skirt. She felt that it was a little novel, but she didn't think much of it and quickly put it on. Yang Chung turned his back and didn't look at her. When he turned around and saw Su Xion's appearance, he couldn't help but blush. He wondered if he was a little unkind. Lin Ruoshi's size was a little small for Su Xin. This mature woman was wearing a close-fitting short sleeve that squeezed the 2 lumps of snow on her chest together. Because she wasn't wearing a bra, the 2 protruding grapes were especially eye-catching. The short skirt only covered a third of her thighs. Her white thighs were elastic and taut, and the lines were beautiful. Su Xin was more generous. Perhaps it was because she had long been played by Shao Qiufeng that she didn't have many feelings for men and women. When Yang Chung looked at her like this, she only smiled in understanding. Yang Chung pretended to cough and said, Su Xin, I want to take you out of the illusion and to the place I stay in the secular world. Are you willing? Young Master Yang, can you really? If I say it's possible, then it's possible. Don't worry. Although the grandma outside has a high cultivation base, she can't stop me alone. Yang Chung wasn't lying. A weak water stage really wasn't his opponent. Su Xin excitedly pinched the corner of her clothes and nodded. I'll listen to young master. I'll do whatever you want me to do. You don't need to do anything. Just watch from behind. After we leave the tower, I'll fly you. It'll be faster this way." After everything was said, Yang Cheng changed back to Xiao Qiufeng's appearance and rushed down the tower with Su Exine. When they came to the closest floor where spiritual materials were stored, Yang Cheng's divine sense swept over. There were 2 Samadhi True Fire Stage Elders and 1 Karmic Fire Stage Elder. The 3 elders were sorting out the spiritual herbs and matching them according to the pill recipe. When they noticed Yang Cheng's arrival, they were a little puzzled. Why was Su Exine following behind the young master? "Young master, what are you doing here?" The elder of Hellfire Stage, whose name was unknown, walked over with a smile. He didn't realize the danger at all. Yang Cheng knew that these elders couldn't discover his real situation. Before the elder came close, Yang Cheng had already summoned the Chaos Cauldron. Under Yang Chen's meticulous control, the Chaos Cauldron didn't release its ferocious chaotic pressure arrogantly. The black and gray cauldron enlarged in the blink of an eye, opened its bloody mouth, and faced the 3 elders who were in the tribulation passing stage. "Young master, you are..." The 3 elders didn't have time to react. They felt a huge suction pulling them into the cauldron. Yang Cheng released his real cultivation. The Tai Ching Heavenly Thunder Tribulation Great Completion activated the power of heaven and earth, which made the Chaos Cauldron almost instantly swallow the cultivators below the Ming water level, especially when the other party didn't have time to resist. It was like a black beast swallowed the 3 of them. In a moment, they turned into 3 vigorous spiritual powers and were absorbed by the Chaos Cauldron and Yang Cheng. Although they were 3 tribulation stage elders, Yang Cheng didn't feel much of the spiritual qi that was absorbed, but it was better than nothing. Even if it was already at the great completion, it was still not easy to reach the Shang-Qing Heavenly Thunder Tribulation. Yang Cheng wasn't in a hurry. It was always good to increase his cultivation. When he looked back, Su Exine was looking at him and the Chaos Cauldron with her eyes wide open in fear. Yang Cheng grinned. "Don't be afraid. This is my magic weapon. I'm going to clear it level by level." With that, Yang Cheng scanned the entire floor with his divine sense. He stuffed all the good stuff into his space ring. One could never have too many good things. Of course, Yang Cheng didn't forget to check if the 3 elders had storage magic weapons like space ring. Unfortunately, the 3 of them were poor. Yang Cheng was a little regretful. Grandma Xiao Tingsu didn't move outside. Yang Cheng was relieved. He went down another floor. This time, he happened to meet an elder of the Ming water stage who was refining pills with the elixir furnace. Because ordinary alchemists couldn't use the Samadhi True Fire directly like Yang Cheng, they used some special spiritual materials to ignite the true fire. Moreover, the quality and endurance were much inferior. Yang Cheng smiled happily. This was a great help. The elder of the Ming water stage didn't allow people to disturb him. He was alone on this floor and happened to be caught by Yang Cheng. Yang Cheng didn't say anything and rushed over quickly. He condensed a ball of weak water and slapped it on the top of the elder's head. A dignified elder of the early stage of the Ming water stage was inexplicably corroded by the weak water and lost the ability to resist. After Yang Cheng absorbed the elder's spiritual qi, he looked at the elixir in the elixir furnace and despised it. The quality was too poor. He didn't want it. This floor seemed to be specially used for alchemy. There were no spiritual materials. Yang Cheng thought for a while. If he stole this elixir furnace, wouldn't he make the Xiao family pay a big loss? After all, an elixir furnace that could withstand the Samadhi True Fire was a very precious ancient treasure. But he thought it wasn't right. He had the Chaos Cauldron. Why would he take an elixir furnace? It took up too much space. So, without saying anything, Yang Cheng released a large purple fire that was even fiercer and hotter than the Samadhi True Fire. It directly turned the elixir furnace into liquid metal. Su Exine, who was watching in fear from afar, was dumbfounded. What kind of magical power did this son-in-law have? He killed the elder of the Ming water stage in one move and melted the elixir furnace in the blink of an eye. She couldn't help but strengthen her confidence to escape. She was also happy that Xiao Qiqing was lucky to find such a man as a backer. Chapter 1499. Yang Cheng did the same. With precise control, he controlled the battle and sneak attacks to a small area. He didn't make much noise, and there weren't even many vibrations. As he went down more than 10 floors, more than 30 Tribulation Transcendent Stage experts and a large number of Soul Formation Stage minions were eaten by Yang Chung and the Chaos Cauldron. Most of the experts didn't realize any danger at all, so they were easily killed by Yang Chung. They didn't even have time to protect themselves with quintessential essence. Yang Chung was overjoyed. He looked at the large pile of spiritual materials in his interspatial ring. He could refine at least thousands of mid-grade and hundreds of superior-grade elixirs. It was a pity that he didn't have a treasure like the Phoenix Blood Vermilion Fruit last time, so he couldn't refine elixirs of the immortal level. However, Yang Chung was very satisfied. With these elixirs, the women only needed to have enlightenment, and the cultivation needed to break through to the Tribulation Transcendent Stage was as easy as drinking water. What surprised Yang Chung even more was that he also obtained 5 new interspatial rings and more than 10 mid-grade and inferior-grade Dharma treasures. Although most of them weren't very useful, they were good for the women to protect themselves. Su Xian, on the other hand, swallowed her saliva. It wasn't that she was greedy, but to a lowly person like her in an ordinary illusory realm, artifacts were beyond her reach. However, Yang Chun casually tossed them into a spatial ring as if they were cabbages. He didn't even look at them. At a speed that Su Xian couldn't imagine, Yang Chung swept through all the floors of spiritual materials and elixir refining in less than an hour and reached the library floor. All the cultivators in the Azure of the Arch Pagoda had been killed by Yang Chung without a trace. Yang Chung wasn't interested in most of the cultivation techniques. He didn't put the Shao family's top Azure with Mystic Heart technique here either. However, for convenience and to let the women learn some self-defense Dharma spells, Yang Chung still picked some that he felt were not bad and stuffed them into the interspatial ring. After dealing with all this, Yang Chung didn't feel very relaxed. The real challenge was just about to begin. When they arrived at the first floor, Yang Chung signaled Su Xian to follow him and walked to the door of the Azure of the Arch Pagoda. The door opened slowly. Su Xian breathed in the fresh air and saw the scenery outside. Her eyes were filled with tears and anxiety. Stop! An enormous pressure descended from above, as if a giant object was pressing down on them, tightly locking onto the two of them. Xiao Tingsu, who had been guarding on the high platform, finally spoke this time. The old woman opened a pair of sparkling eyes that didn't match her age and stared at Yang Chun. Yang Chun still looked like Xiao Qiufeng. Smiling, he said, "Grandma, I want to bring this bitch out. Please make an exception. I didn't receive Xiao Mingyu's message." "You can." Xiao Tingsu's voice was cold and emotionless. As the Grand Elder, regardless of seniority, she had the right to call the current patriarch Xiao Mingyu by his name. "Grandma, she's in the Xiao clan anyway. How can a soul formation cultivator like her escape?" Xiao Tingsu narrowed her eyes and looked suspicious. "Xiao Qiufeng, tell me your date of birth." Xiao Tingsu suddenly narrowed her eyes, and a trace of suspicion flashed through her eyes. "Xiao Qiufeng, tell me your date of birth." Xiao Tingsu narrowed her eyes and looked suspicious. "Xiao Qiufeng, tell me your date of birth." Yang Chung said. "Grandma, what do you mean?" What do you mean?" Xiao Tingsu's face darkened. When Xiao Qiufeng saw me, he never dared to say a word of nonsense. "You actually dare to break the rules and beg me. You are really Xiao Qiufeng?" Yang Chun cursed inwardly. He had forgotten that Xiao Qiufeng was a coward. How would he dare to defy Xiao Tingsu? At this moment, Xiao Tingsu suddenly increased the suppression of her cultivation base and shouted sternly, "Where did this imposter come from? Who are you?" The terrifying pressure of the intermediate stage of the weak water realm exploded, causing Su Xian to spit out a mouthful of blood. Fortunately, Yang Chung reacted quickly. He released his cultivation and protected Su Xian. He grabbed her waist and pushed back Xiao Tingsu's pressure. Logically speaking, he was in the Tai Ching Heavenly Thunder Tribulation Great Perfection realm, while Xiao Tingsu was only in the weak water intermediate realm. But Xiao Tingsu was hundreds of years old. She had been in the weak water realm for a long time. Even if she didn't reach the advanced stage of the weak water realm, her true inner chi was still terrifying. It was like two test tubes. One test tube was longer and wider, while the other was narrower and shorter. However, the larger test tube had only been filled with water for a few seconds, not even halfway, while the smaller test tube was already filled to the point where it was about to overflow. Yangcheng was a more powerful test tube. Whether it was modified to a larger test tube or the water it could hold, it would be better than the smaller test tube. But after all, he was not full of water. Xiao Tingsu also realized this. She couldn't see through Yangcheng's cultivation, but she found that the strength of the true inner chi that Yangcheng resisted was not something she couldn't handle. Oomph, you're a master at such a young age. But if you want to take this female prisoner away from the Xiao family, you're dreaming. Xiao Tingsu's silhouette flew up abruptly. Her palms flipped countless times, and she pushed towards Yangcheng's position. Formless green, wood profound palm. The Xiao family's secret technique, greenwood profound heart, finally showed its terrifying power in front of Yangcheng for the first time. Dozens of huge palm prints covered the sky and earth. They were mixed with vigorous true inner chi and shone with a green light. They were about to engulf Yangcheng and Su Xin. Yangcheng gathered a large amount of the power of heaven and earth and wrapped it around himself and Su Xin. He pulled himself up from the ground and rushed toward Xiao Tingsu. The palm prints condensed by the true inner chi couldn't stop Yangcheng's charge. But Yangcheng had to take care of Su Xin, so he couldn't do much to resist. Chaos Cauldron. Yangcheng didn't hesitate. To deal with an opponent who was not much weaker than him, he had to use his unique advantage to suppress her. The Chaos Cauldron expanded and became more than 10 meters wide. The huge object spun and smashed toward Xiao Tingsu. What? Chaos Cauldron? Xiao Tingsu couldn't hide her surprise. Her old face was almost filled with disbelief. The fat and greedy shadow of the Chaos Cauldron roared ferociously and swallowed Xiao Tingsu. Xiao Tingsu wasn't as easy to deal with as those dark water stage cultivators. Not to mention the depth of her cultivation, her battle experience was incomparable. She made a series of hand seals and condensed a sudden flash of green light. Then, she rushed towards the chaos beast like a comet. Spiritwood's soul-gathering break. The green light seemed to have a life of its own. A pair of eyes, a mouth, and a nose appeared. It looked like a dying old man, but its power was amazing. At first glance, one could tell that it was an extraordinary high-level spell. The Spiritwood's soul-gathering collided with the gray-black shadow of the chaos beast and tore it apart. The green light wrapped around the Chaos Cauldron and blocked its attack. But the Chaos Cauldron was one of the 4 ancient fierce beasts after all. In a few seconds, it absorbed the Spiritwood's soul gathering and transformed it into green with spiritual chi. But the Chaos Cauldron was stopped after all. Xiao Tingsu didn't stay idle. She scattered a spider web-like green with true inner chi to block Yangcheng's retreat. It seemed that she was going to have a fierce battle. It's really the legendary Chaos Cauldron. Although I don't know who you are, your cultivation is not enough to truly master the power of the Chaos Cauldron. You want to defeat me with this? You're still not mature enough. Yangcheng cursed inwardly. He didn't have the time to fight with a crazy woman like her. Once the noise spread, the masters of the Xiao family would immediately surround them. Xiao Tingsu was obviously thinking about the same thing, so she looked at Yangcheng with a teasing gaze. Young master, run southwest from here. That's the fastest way to get out of the illusion. Let's go. Su Xian's face was pale. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, she just recovered. Yangcheng knew that it would be difficult for him to leave with Su Xian if he waited for more people. So he didn't hesitate to activate the Chaos Cauldron again and let the Chaos Cauldron rush toward Xiao Tingsu. His other empty hand condensed a large expanse of raging and crazy purple flames. He charged towards the huge green net that was wrapping around him like a flaming lion. The giant greenwood net was restrained by the purple flame. Although it had the ability to repair itself instantly, it was still suppressed by the purple flame and a big hole was opened. Spirit Wood Soul Gathering. Xiao Tingsu had just summoned a Spirit Wood Soul Gathering to resist the Chaos Cauldron. When she saw the giant net was torn by Yang Cheng's strange and terrifying flame, she couldn't help but feel anxious. Old woman, Grandpa will swallow you in the future. Yang Cheng laughed. He put away the Chaos Cauldron and used it to cover the rear. Then he was about to escape. But the next moment, Yang Cheng's laughter stopped abruptly, because in the direction of his escape, there was suddenly a blue light soared the size of a giant whale in the sea rushing toward him. Chapter 1500. Another true essence pressure of at least weak water intermediate stage. The thing that Yang Cheng was most worried about still happened. The reason why he didn't want to fight with Xiao Tingsa head-on wasn't because he thought he couldn't beat her. In fact, if he was serious, Xiao Tingsa definitely wouldn't be his opponent. However, he still had to protect Su Xian. She was an early divine transformation stage cultivator. If she encountered a battle of this level, the shock wave of true essence would probably kill her. Secondly, Yang Cheng was worried that other weak water stage cultivators would come to help. If he was surrounded by several weak water stage cultivators, then he could only take care of himself and definitely wouldn't be able to protect Su Xian. Seeing the blue light sword coming over like a giant missile, Yang Cheng didn't have time to think too much. He threw Su Xian behind him, and a burst of blue fire erupted from his body, colliding with a light sword. Boom! The blue fire and blue light lit up the sky in an instant, radiating brilliance and dazzling brilliance. However, the surging true essence impact shook the entire Xiao family. Finally, all the cultivators reacted and looked at the magnificent scene in the sky in horror. A figure in black appeared in the blue light sword. His long hair flew in the wind, and his face was cold. His entire person was like a cold and sharp sword that was unsheathed. After the blue curtain of light disappeared, a dark blue 3-feet-long sword returned to the man's side. It circled around the man and let out a series of crisp sword cries, as if it was supporting its master. Su Xiaogong, you came to the right time. Help me kill this traitor who sneaked into the Xiao family. Xiao Tingsu saw the person and obviously recognized him. She gave instructions with the attitude of a senior. The person who came was Su Xiaogong, who came to the Xiao family as promised. He was one of the top 10 masters in the illusion realm. Su Xiaogong glanced at Xiao Tingsu and didn't seem to buy it. Instead, he looked at the blue fire jumping on Yang Cheng's body with interest, as well as the huge circling cauldron. Yang Cheng narrowed his eyes. There were cultivators coming from all directions. It was useless for him to pretend to be Xiao Qiufeng. It seemed like there was no other way but to kill his way out. With a beckoning gesture, the Chaos Cauldron returned to Yang Cheng's back and landed on top of Su Xian's head. A chaotic light curtain enveloped Su Xian like a tranquil barrier. Su Xin, I'll use the Chaos Cauldron to protect you. Just stay inside and don't move, Yang Cheng said in a low voice. Although the power of the Chaos Cauldron was far from that of an immortal artifact, it could protect Su Xian with all its might. Given the strength of the two cultivators present, they would not be able to easily shake it. Su Xian nodded her head forcefully and said uneasily, Young master, please be careful. Su Xiaogong's flying sword is a high-grade magic treasure, and it's called Whale Slayer. Its sword chi can reach thousands of meters away, and its might is extremely domineering. Yang Cheng had already seen the power of that attack, so he was more or less prepared for it. It was impossible for a cultivator of this level to not have a decent magic treasure. Your cultivation method is very mysterious. It can actually destroy my Azure Sword intent in an instant. I seem to have felt the power of the dark water. Su Xiaogong, do not kill nameless people. Tell me your name and fight with me. Su Xiaogong's eyes were filled with excitement. Originally, he could not resist his sister Su Yanen's pleading and came over to guide the Xiao family's disciples. He did not care about the competition between the three families or the demonic eye. However, he did not expect to encounter a battle above the weak water stage as soon as he arrived at the Xiao family. He even met such a magical opponent. His heart was itching. Su Xiaogong, why are you still talking nonsense? Hurry up and attack. Xiao Tingsu reprimanded angrily. Old woman, I will not argue with you because you are a few hundred years older than me. I am not a servant of the Xiao family. If you dare to speak to me in a commanding tone, I will kill you first. Su Xiaogong glared at Xiao Tingsu. You have no respect for your elders. I can't be bothered to argue with you. Xiao Tingsu was so angry that her face turned red. However, she knew that it was not the time to waste words with Su Xiaogong. She turned her head and stared at Yang Cheng sinisterly. Little thief, you can't escape. Not long later, there will be more and more experts in the Xiao family. When my brothers and sisters come, you will die obediently. Yang Cheng had already noticed a group of cultivators appearing in the distance. Some of them were at the Darkwater stage. Most of them were at the Kuei water stage and Samadhi True fire stage. They could not pose a threat to him. They also clearly knew that they could not interfere in a battle of this level. Thus, they all watched from afar. This even included Xiao Mahui and the rest of the Xiao family. However, they all looked at him in astonishment. They did not seem to understand why Xiao Qiufeng betrayed them. There was no guarantee that the weak water stage experts would rush over from afar. That would really be a narrow escape. You think it's too much to let you live for a few more days? Then I will send you to hell today. Yang Cheng was also burning with anger. He did not care about making a big scene after being provoked. If they came, then so be it. He could also try to see how he could fight with the weak water stage experts without using the chaotic cauldron. Yang Cheng's figure suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Xiao Tingsu. A fist burning with blue fire blasted towards Xiao Tingsu's head. Compared to using any magic weapon, Yang Cheng was more used to using his body, which was stronger than magic weapons. Xiao Tingsu knew that she could not actually defeat Yang Cheng. She just wanted to delay until help came. So her nerves were tense. When she saw Yang Cheng's attack, she quickly retreated. A green light flashed on her hand. A large piece of green wood true essence condensed into a net, trying to block Yang Cheng's speed. But Yang Cheng gathered a large piece of purple fire around his body and destroyed the green wood true essence instantly. Instead of retreating, he moved closer and closer to Xiao Tingsu. Xiao Tingsu could feel the terrifying corrosive power from Yang Cheng's blue fire. It was the aura of the strange Ming water and Samadhi True fire. This made her scalp numb. If the true essence shield was broken, she was afraid that she would be seriously injured even if she did not die. Seeing that Yang Cheng was getting closer and closer and waving purple and blue fire dragons from time to time, Xiao Tingsu was so scared that her face turned pale. She secretly regretted provoking Yang Cheng and not delaying more time. What made her even more angry was that Su Xiaogong had been watching from the side and had no intention of making a move. Xiao Mahui, who was watching the battle from afar, finally realized that this sun was fake. After a long time of bewilderment, he reacted and immediately ordered the butler, Xiao Gyuan, next to him. Quick, send a few masters to support Grandma. He did not dare to approach, but he was worried that the Xiao family would lose a Grand Supreme Elder. Yes, Master. Xiao Gyuan immediately selected 4 Ming Water Stage Masters who were watching, as well as 10 Samadhi True Fire and Water Stage Cultivators to support Xiao Tingsu. As for himself, he did not dare to approach at all, just like Xiao Mahui. They were all at the Crossing Calamity stage and had felt the power of the heavenly fire and mystic water. Yang Cheng was clearly sprinkling all kinds of heavenly fire and mystic water out of thin air that made them tremble with fear. How could they dare to approach rashly? Most of these chosen cultivators were not from the Xiao family. Since they had surrendered to the Xiao family, they were sent to risk their lives at this time and did not dare to disobey. For a moment, more than 10 beams of true essence shot toward Yang Cheng's position, wanted to work together to restrict Yang Cheng. No matter how fierce Yang Cheng was, he was only one person. If they attacked from all directions, they would be able to hit him first. Yang Cheng sensed that more than 10 cultivators were using their magic treasures and spells to greet him. There were all kinds of magic treasures and spells. Knowing that they were starting to besiege him, he laughed even more angrily. A group of shrimp soldiers and crab generals. Are you worthy of saving this person who is going to die? Yang Cheng knew that it was impossible to defend against all of these attacks, so he was too lazy to defend. He raised his hand above his head, and a ball of gray weak water quickly grew bigger like a ball of death. Weak? Weak water? Shout Ting-Su, who had just heaved a sigh of relief from Yang Cheng's close pursuit, almost dropped her jaw when she saw this scene. The group of cultivators also noticed that the corrosive power of the huge weak water ball was astonishing, but it was too late to turn back. All of you die. Yang Cheng scattered the entire ball of weak water, and like countless bullets condensed from weak water, they shot in all directions, covering all of these cultivators. At the same time, the colorful but powerful magic treasures and spells of more than 10 cultivators also landed on Yang Cheng's body. His entire body was bombarded by more than 10 kinds of true essence, and the sound of explosions was endless. Chapter 1501. Sorrowless and the rest, as well as Xiao Ting-Su, who was desperately circulating her true essence to resist the Rual water, were secretly delighted to see this scene. In their opinion, a cultivator's body, even a weak water stage cultivator's body, would be seriously injured if not dead after receiving more than a dozen direct attacks. But at the same time, the Shao clan's experts were unable to resist the erosion of the Rual water with their cultivation and true essence force. They screamed and fell down. The Rual water quickly corroded their souls, and they would never be able to reincarnate. Seeing the tribulation stage cultivators, including 4 dark water stage cultivators, die so weakly, the onlookers retreated a little. The power of the Rual water was too fatal to those who didn't have weak water stage cultivation. Sorrowless and the rest were extremely distressed. These were all cultivated by the Shao clan with a large number of elixirs, but they were all killed by Yang Cheng in one move. But what shocked them even more was what happened next. They saw a figure break out from the ball of true essence. He tore off a shirt that could no longer cover his body, but his aura didn't weaken at all. Young Master Yang, Su Xian, who had been extremely worried, exclaimed happily. To Yang Cheng, the attack of these cultivators didn't have much lethality to him, so he quickly used the endless resolve restoration scripture to repair himself. Looking at Xiao Ting-Su, whose mouth could fit an egg, Yang Cheng grinned hideously. I'll kill as many helpers as you come, but it seems that no one dares to help you. Die. A sinister look flashed across Xiao Ting-Su's eyes, and she suddenly rushed towards the chaos cauldron. She was close and wanted to capture Su Xian, who was protected by the chaos cauldron, as a hostage. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to defend against the second round of attacks from Yang Cheng. Seeing this, Yang Cheng was even more annoyed. He simply activated the Chaos Cauldron, summoned the Chaos Beast Soul again, and launched a counterattack towards Xiao Ting-Su. Xiao Ting-Su turned pale with fright. Seeing the Chaos Beast Soul opening its bloody mouth to bite her, she didn't have time to condense the giant spirit with soul to block it. She could only use a purple bracelet on her hand. Purple Dye Bracelet. This was a mid-upper grade defensive magic treasure. After all, not every expert in the illusion realm could have an offensive magic treasure. Even if the Shao clan was one of the 3 major clans, it was impossible for them to give every elder a high-grade magic treasure. Moreover, for people like Xiao Ting-Su, who specialized in spells, offensive magic treasures were far less practical than defensive magic treasures. The violet dye bracelets propped up a purple curtain of light that looked like hexagonal bricks stacked together to form a giant shield. Bang! When the primal chaos hit the purple wall, it was as if a mountain was shaking, but it was still bounced back. However, cracks began to appear on the defensive barrier. Cracks appeared on the violet dye bracelet that was floating in the sky. Then, like an ordinary stone that had lost its luster, it fell to the ground and was destroyed by the chaos. After all, it was only a mid-high grade defensive magic treasure. While it was precious, its defensive properties were not tough enough. Xiao Tingsu was shocked by the ferocious power of the chaos. She couldn't care less about the pain and wanted to grab Su Exen, who had escaped the protection of the chaos cauldron. However, Yangcheng wouldn't give her the chance. He arrived just in time and whipped her with a long whip of weak water. Xiao Tingsu's speed wasn't as fast as Yangcheng's. Now that she was blocked by the chaos cauldron, she couldn't dodge in time, and one of her arms was hit. Ah! Xiao Tingsu wailed in pain. The grayish-white weak water started to hurt her soul from her arm. Obviously, it was beginning to corrode her. She hurriedly used her true core strength to resist it. However, without giving her spiritual pills and time to recuperate, there was no way to expel the weak water in a short period of time. Su Xiaogong, why are you still standing there? Xiao Tingsu screamed hysterically. Su Xiaogong, who had been watching coldly, finally moved this time. The whale-slaying sword emitted a dazzling blue radiance. It was really like a blue whale swimming in the vast ocean. It charged towards Yangcheng with the weight of Mount Tai. 2 against 1, I don't like it. Now that she's defeated, it's my turn. Su Xiaogong's dark eyes were filled with battle intent. However, when Yangcheng saw that Xiao Tingsu was seriously injured and fleeing, he couldn't care less about Su Xiaogong's obstruction. Don't even think about stopping me. Yangcheng was like a madman. It seemed that he couldn't stop the huge blue light sword in time, so he simply didn't stop it. He continued in the direction that Xiao Tingsu escaped in. A whirlpool of blue fire was swung out. The gigantic lightsaber hit Yangcheng's back, and Yangcheng's body was like a steel bullet as he was sent tumbling in the air. However, the blue fire finally devoured Xiao Tingsu, as Yangcheng wished. Xiao Tingsu's screams were especially shrill. Her body was continuously corroded by the weak water, Ming water, and Samadhi true fire. She couldn't hold on any longer and fell from the sky unwillingly. Grandma, Elder, Sorrowless, and the others screamed. This was one of the few remaining grand elders of the Xiao clan. She actually died in front of their eyes. Many people looked at Su Xiaogong with hatred. If Su Xiaogong didn't insist on fighting one-on-one, Xiao Tingsu wouldn't have died in battle. Actually, no one knew that this was also the cause of Xiao Tingsu's own trouble. Originally, Yangcheng didn't want to take the risk of fighting. However, Xiao Tingsu thought that Yangcheng couldn't do anything to her. She pressured him and obstructed him in every way possible. She even wanted to take Su Xian as a hostage. This made Yangcheng's teeth itch. Even a rabbit would bite when it was cornered. Moreover, he was a tough character who killed without blinking an eye. Naturally, he didn't care about anything else and wanted to kill her. However, Su Xiaogong, who was in midair, didn't care about these people's anger. Instead, he looked at Yangcheng in shock, who was hit by his sword energy. How is this possible? My azure sword energy can't do much damage to you? Su Xiaogong watched as Yangcheng flipped a few rounds before stopping abruptly. He reached out to touch his back with a displeased expression, as if the sword aura had only tickled him. In Su Xiaogong's eyes, it was incredible that a cultivator's body could reach this level. However, he didn't feel pressured. Instead, he was overjoyed. Good, good, good. You're really interesting. Since my ordinary azure sword energy doesn't have any effect on you, let's see if my level 36 azure sword can break through your body's defense. After saying that, the whale-slaying flying sword condensed surging sword energy again. However, this time, the sword energy was more solid than before. It contained Su Xiaogong's sword will, which was also the Tao that he had comprehended. In terms of swordsmanship, although Yangcheng's realm was enough, he wasn't as focused and pure as Su Xiaogong's. Therefore, Yangcheng didn't have the kind of sword will that Su Xiaogong had. Azure Sword Will, level 16, Mad Shark. The sword will condensed into a huge shark that was dozens of meters long. Its sharp teeth and fins were all made up of exquisite sword energy. With the indomitable power of the sea, it charged towards Yangcheng fiercely. Seeing that only Su Xiaogong was left, Yangcheng didn't have the mood to fight anymore. If this dragged on, he really wouldn't be able to escape. Therefore, he summoned the Chaos Cauldron and released the Chaos Beast Soul to fight with the Mad Shark Sword Will. Roar! The beast's soul roared and tangled with the Mad Shark Sword Will, tearing the Mad Shark Sword Will into countless flowing sword energy. The sky was suddenly dyed with a blue stream of light. Yang Chung took the opportunity to grab Su Xian and shouted, "Go!" Then, he immediately fled towards the southwest. Su Xiaogong was shouting in satisfaction. He thought that Yang Chung was going to attack him, but in the blink of an eye, he saw that something was wrong. After the Chaos Cauldron defeated the Mad Shark Sword Will, it retracted in the blink of an eye. The Chaos Cauldron was also summoned back and disappeared. This guy, he only fought with him once, and he actually ran away? Shameless. Do you want to be a coward and run away? Su Xiaogong's voice passed through his true essence and shouted for several kilometers, filled with anger. Yang Chung heard it in an instant and secretly spat in his heart. Mother of asterisk her, if it wasn't for the fact that he was afraid of a large group of weak water blocking him, if it wasn't for the fact that he still had to take Su Xian away, he would have killed you just like he killed Xiao Tingsu. What bullshit top 10 experts. As long as it wasn't a battle of numbers, Grandpa would be afraid of you. However, this Su Xiaogong didn't join forces with Xiao Tingsu, which made Yang Chung feel that it was a bit embarrassing to kill him. Originally, if the two of them joined forces, although they would only die a little slower, they would still be able to delay a lot of time. If worst comes to worst, I'll just spare his life today, Lord Yang thought to himself shamelessly. Chapter 1502. Watching Yang Chung disappear without a trace like a ray of light, the Xiao family did not dare to stop him. They even timidly avoided the direction in which Yang Chung ran. It was too shocking. The Grand Elder, Xiao Tingsu, who was near the end of the middle stage of the Weak Water Realm, a grandmother who had lived for hundreds of years, was defeated by a young man who came out of nowhere and died without a corpse left. Sorrowless led the Xiao family to surround Su Xiaogong and said with hatred, "Su Xiaogong, what do you mean? Why did you see my elder in trouble and did not help? Does your Su family want a rebel?" He was also really angry. The Grand Elder of the middle stage of the Weak Water Realm, the Xiao family, could not compare to the Ning family and the Luo family. Who could understand the pain of dying before achieving victory? Su Xiaogong turned his head and called back the flying sword whale beheader, which hovered beside him. "What? Do you want to fight with me? You?" Sorrowless was so angry that his teeth itched, but he did not know what to say. "I, Su Xiaogong, hate to win with numbers. In a fight between experts, what matters is victory or defeat, life or death. What is needed is a head-on confrontation. Only then can one go one step further. What do you useless things know? I did not come here today to help you catch the thief. My time is precious, and I only came for the sake of my sister. Do you think my Su family wants to stay in your Xiao family? Just because I, Su Xiaogong, say a word, which of the Luo family and the Ning family patriarchs would not come and win me over? Who do you think you are to talk about me?" Su Xiaogong said respectfully. Sorrowless' face alternated between green and white, and his body trembled with anger. Su Yanan, who was behind him, could not stand it anymore. She came forward and pulled her brother's sleeve and said softly, "Brother, don't be angry. Uncle is also confused because of Grandma. We are family. If you want to blame someone, blame that traitor who pretended to be Chiu Feng." Su Xiaogong coldly snorted and put the whale beheader back into the space ring. With Su Yanan's change of topic, everyone immediately started discussing spiritedly, discussing who exactly was that person. In the crowd, Xiao Minyan's face was fiery red. She didn't know if she was ashamed or angry. She finally understood why this brother was so brave that night. It turned out that he was not the original. Then wouldn't she be toyed with by a man she didn't know? Right at this moment, from the depths of the Xiao clan, a surging pressure rushed toward them at lightning speed. A resolute elder wearing a purple brocade robe with gray hair combed behind his head appeared above everyone, giving off a dignified and condescending aura. "Father!" Sorrowless regret was overjoyed, but then he lowered his head in shame. "Patriarch, The group of Shao clan cultivators also shouted respectfully. Only Su Xiaogong glanced at the elder without saying anything. This elder was the master of the Shao family, Shao Mengyu. Previously, he had been in a critical moment of closed-door training. Feeling the violent fluctuations of true essence above the weak water stage, he tried his best to come out of closed-door training, but it was still too late. Sorrowless, what happened? Shao Mengyu noticed that the true essence pressure from his grandmother, Shao Tingsu, was gone, and his face darkened. Sorrowless regret stammered as he recounted what had just happened. He had also sent Shao Manyan to investigate the Azure Emperor's pagoda and discovered the tragic situation inside. When he heard that a large number of spiritual materials had been stolen from the Azure Emperor's pagoda, dozens of cultivators had been killed, and Shao Tingsu was injured, Shao Mengyu's eyebrows trembled. His true essence seemed to be overflowing, and the veins on his forehead bulged. I've only been in closed-door training for slightly more than 2 months, and the family has already suffered so many disasters. How can you be the substitute patriarch? Shao Mengyu roared angrily. Sorrowless regret trembled all over and lowered his head, not daring to make sound. When he had calmed down a little, Shao Mengyu waved his sleeves and said loudly, "From today onwards, the Shao clan will be on the highest alert. Do not be careless at all. If anyone's negligence causes the family to suffer losses, don't blame me for being merciless." Yes, the group of Shao clan cultivators agreed loudly. However, everyone knew that they would not be able to recover their vitality in a short period of time. Shao Mengyu dismissed the crowd and arranged for people to clean up the mess in the Azure Arch Pagoda. Only then did he let Shao Mahui and the rest return to the Shao clan's main hall. From the beginning to the end, Shao Mengyu didn't pay much attention to Su Xiaogong. This undoubtedly meant that he didn't want to fall out with Su Xiaogong, but he was also very displeased with Su Xiaogong's actions. Su Xiaogong, on the other hand, did not care. He took the initiative to follow them into the main hall, seemingly interested to hear how the Shao clan would deal with this matter. The elders of the Shao clan all gathered together to discuss how to deal with Yang Cheng, who had already disappeared without a trace. This person is absolutely irreconcilable with our Shao clan. I'm afraid that Xiu Feng has already been killed by him. Shao Mengyu stood in the middle of the hall and said with a gloomy face. Sorrowless Regret's face darkened and his eyes flashed with pain. After all, he was his own son. Although he was ignorant and incompetent, he was still his own flesh and blood. He also understood why Shao Qiufeng suddenly turned over a new leaf. It turned out that he had been impersonated. After making him happy for so many days, he was actually deceived. Sorrowless Regret really wanted to skin Yangcheng and pull out his tendons. Send our clan spies to search the entire illusory realm. Also, send people to other clans to inquire about this person's news. If his cauldron is really the Chaos Cauldron, then it should not be the first time it appeared. There should be some news. Wait until we find out who he is and where he is. Even if he is at the end of the world, we will definitely make him pay with his blood and pay him back 100 times. Shao Mengyu said angrily, "When you find him, remember to tell me. I must have a good fight with him." Su Xiaogong leaned against the door and said leisurely. The people of the Shao clan all looked at him angrily. Obviously, they were still angry. Shao Mengyu snorted lightly and said, "Grandma is not his opponent. I'm afraid that you will also die if you go. I advise you not to act rashly. If you stay with the Shao clan's great elders, you can still keep your life." Su Xiaogong laughed loudly. "Until now, none of the great elders have come. Are you still counting on them?" Shao Mengyu's face was rather ugly. In fact, he was also responsible for this. After all, the great elders were not in the Shao clan's main sect. They were far away. If he did not contact them, those great elders would not know what happened to the Shao clan. However, he just happened to be at the critical moment of closed-door cultivation. He thought that it would be fine after a while, because Shao Tingsu was there. Who would have thought that something big would happen? Of course, he would not say this out. Otherwise, he would bear all the responsibility as the clan leader. However, he was already prepared to contact the great elders. Facing such a strong enemy, if the Shao clan did not get back at them, they would not be able to establish a foothold in the illusory realm in the future. On the other side, Yang Chung, who had flown out of the illusory realm with Su Xian, was relieved. Although he did not know if there would be any experts appearing later, at least he could rest assured that he was out of the illusory realm. Yang Chung did not delay much. He changed into decent clothes and rushed directly to the Forgotten Realms with Su Xian. This was not to give up. After all, Xiao Qiqing had not had time to save them. However, he also needed to take a break to see if there were any problems with the women and children. At the same time, he also needed to settle Su Xian. The Mediterranean region was currently very safe in Yang Cheng's view. Even if the people in the illusory realm came to his door, he did not have to worry too much. With the recovery of Gaia's heart, Yang Cheng felt that his mental strength had become much stronger than before. If he used the law of space now, it should be 10% higher than Poseidon's level. Even he had such progress. It was conceivable that Apollo, Artemis, Hermes, and others, who were much stronger than his law of space, should have made great progress. With them around, perhaps the weak water stage cultivators might not be able to take advantage of them. Yang Cheng did not know to what extent his mental strength would grow if this continued, nor did he know what changes would occur to his divine spark. But for now, it was beneficial to him. Of course, Yang Cheng did not want to use the law of space to fight. Compared to his own cultivation, his law of space was still too weak no matter how strong it was. Su Xian followed Yang Cheng all the way to the Mediterranean Sea. Looking at the scenery below, it was extremely fresh to her. She had never really been out of the illusory realm, nor had she seen the sea, let alone these beaches. Although there were many things in the secular world and the illusory realm, there were still many differences after all. When they came to the sky above the Forgotten Realms, a purple and a light yellow graceful figure flew out from the direction of the castle and came in front of Yang Cheng and Su Xian. Husband, it was Qiang Wei and Kai Ning. While they were surprised to see Yang Cheng, they also saw Su Xian in a hot short skirt with beautiful legs and a familiar and beautiful appearance. The two women could not help but be stunned. Where did this woman come from?